numbers that should be done when you look at our active cases and those that have been found that added to that. But some people have healed and they've gone home. Or maybe never even left home or healed at home. And this is the case around the world. So when you look at the 4.5 million cases around the world, it doesn't mean that we have 4,525,000 walking around with COVID. It means that it's a conclusive number. It includes those who've healed and unfortunately includes those who've lost their lives.
Since December.
Since December
31st, yeah.
Okay. So now if we look at those numbers by country, we see some changes, still some worrying. And now, so a third of the total cases are in the United States. 1,457,593 cases in the US. Brazil is still ramping up the numbers there, still being looked at as a spot where there might be issues. 6 dead in the last 6 hours. China has 4 new cases, and the numbers are still constant for them, still at 82,000. They've not yet crossed the 83,000 mark. Mexico, in the last 6 hours as well, 2,409 new cases. And so they're what is being called a hotspot as well. Okay, so if we look at the numbers in Africa, we still are, still testing, still quite, the numbers are adding up. South Africa now with almost 13,000 cases. Egypt with 10,800, closing in on 11,000. Algeria and Morocco still steady at about 6,500 cases for both countries. Nigeria at 5,000 cases, 5,162. Ghana at 5,530. Cameroon at 2,900, with Guinea at 2,473. Now, if we want to look at the countries that have lower numbers, Kenya 758, Niger 876, Zambia 654, and the numbers seem to remain steady in that area. 287 cases still in Rwanda and 0 deaths, and in Uganda now 160 cases, but still with 0 deaths. So a week ago there were 98 cases in Uganda, and today 160 cases. So over the last 1 week, they've increased by about 65 cases, but still no deaths, and they still keep measures quite tight in terms of how they're managing this.
So I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, when Dr. Mike Ryan, one of the directors at WHO, said that this thing is likely to be endemic, we are likely to live with it. So if you look at the numbers, and so they might have a case, or we might have a case to really not worry or panic. If you look at the number of people that are seriously ill or critically ill, it's very few. Globally, total is 45,000. But now if you go by country, let's say the first 3 countries, USA has a total of 1.4 million people so far, but their serious and critical cases are 16,000. For a population of 300 million. Spain has total cases of 272. Critical cases are 1,376. Russia, which yesterday had a jump in the numbers, has a total of 252. And their serious and critically ill people are 2,300. A country like Italy, which was a worry because of the number of deaths that were there, currently has 855 people that are critically ill. So if you are to look from that particular lens, then WHO might actually have a case, because it means everyone else either has mild symptoms or is asymptomatic, does not have any symptoms, and therefore can actually manage this thing from home. So maybe, from the look of things...
Is the number of those critically ill dropping, or is it remaining constant? But
the percentage has more or less remained constant at about 2-3% of the active cases. So they've remained more or less the same.
So why is it that facilities were getting swamped earlier?
Because...
Why was it being overrun?
Because those that were really sick were really sick. And then it was like all of a sudden all of you need critical care. And that was the thing, and that was the problem. Remember that we were afraid of, like, you do not want all of a sudden you have a capacity of 100, but the demand is 1,000.
Yeah.
Chances are you are going to lose so many people, and that could explain actually the number of deaths that we are seeing in Europe, because all of a sudden, all your elderly people, all your people with chronic lung disease need intensive care, and you don't have. And that could also explain what we are seeing in Africa, because the numbers have been slowly rising and steadily rising. If you look at Kenya now, we just have one person who's critically ill out of the 758 cases. So you could say, like, in Africa, we haven't really seen what happened in Europe, because you've not experienced that sudden surge in numbers.
Also because of our younger demographic.
Yes, there's also that our younger demographic, because if you look at our numbers, 50% are between 20 and 40 years old. So also our demographics have helped.
So what has happened in Europe? Have they increased the number of critical care beds, or are we saying that those that were vulnerable for critical care have basically fallen off? Let's just say they've died.
Yeah, you're being polite.
Yes.
I think, we see, because now, if you look at the US, 86,000 deaths, Spain 27,000, Russia, luckily, by the way, has had 2,300 deaths. UK in Europe is leading in the number of deaths with 33,614. Italy follows closely, 31,000 deaths. France 27,000. Germany has always had a low number, that's 7,928. Turkey 4,000. So they've had a significant number of deaths. So you could say that the disease sort of has normalized.
It has taken who it was coming for.
Specifically.
It's just a bad way of saying it, but realistically, that's what we are saying.
Like you saw the graph in UK, for example, that it's now coming down, because everyone that got the disease has gotten the disease, and now there is a steady decline, because whoever is now there is being managed and can be managed.
It's easier to manage.
Yeah.
And in fact, now their message is very clear. If you have the symptoms, stay at home. But it's. But also, they're talking about how their care homes have really been affected. So the elderly, the people who are in the care homes, the death toll has been it has been seriously bad. In England, in Scotland, in Wales, everywhere. They're just talking about, oh my goodness, the number of people who have died in these facilities is very high, and now the younger population is living with this, with the virus. Also, still the explanation, they're still wondering why Africa is the way it is.
There are many theories, including that Africa is not testing enough, or Africa is not reporting, and it doesn't help that we have countries like Tanzania and Burundi that have basically decided to do their own thing. So there are all these reasons as to why they think Africa is the way it is. But I think, for me, it is just the demographics in Africa.
Yeah.
You cannot compare what we have and what they have in Europe. At the peak, for example, in Italy and most of the European countries, the people above the age of 60 years who had coronavirus was significantly higher.
Yeah.
In Kenya, you have your majority below 40 years of age. So if you're looking at people with pre-existing conditions, other comorbidities, just the fact of age and low immunity, you do not expect that your 20 to 40-year-olds are going to be having chronic lung disease or having cancer, diabetes, hypertension. These are your active members of society. These are people who are likely to fight this virus. So for me, that's the best explanation for Africa. And then two, most of the African countries started the measures early.
Yeah.
Lockdown started early when our cases were still below 20 in most African countries. It was slow in others it was fast enough. So the measures started early because we had seen what was happening in Europe, and we knew if it comes here, it's going to decimate us. So we started our measures early as opposed to them. Look at the US, for example. They dilly-dallied with it. Italy the same. And that's why the numbers are, UK the same. Yep. That's why their numbers are the way they are.
Maybe you'll also look at our immune system as Africans. We've been ravaged by other diseases, and therefore our immunity is always alert. Right. So that lady in Mombasa who was talking about chikungunya and
it came, it didn't kill us.
She had a point.
That lady.
She had a point. 18 minutes after 6. Let's take a look at weather. The conversation continues.
...24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
All right, we're going to look at mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, Friday, getting into the weekend. But all indications show that across the country and in several parts of East Africa, it will be a wet weekend. Highs of 24 and lows of 15 with scattered thunderstorms is what is forecasted for Nairobi at the moment. Looking into Nyeri at 16 degrees, already experiencing light rain showers, likely to be the same until Saturday. Highs of 23 and lows of 16. Nakuru as well will show for wet conditions in the afternoon with highs of 25, currently at 14 degrees and partly cloudy conditions. In Eldoret at 13 degrees, it's clear skies this morning. However, that will shut down to rain later with highs of 24 and lows of 13. Then taking a look into Kisumu. Kisumu this morning is partly cloudy. It'll be a wet weekend, though later we're looking at highs of 28 and lows of 19 today. It's mostly cloudy in Mombasa, 26 degrees. Rain expected later with highs of 30 and lows of 25. In Malindi, where it's mostly cloudy at the moment at 27 degrees, it'll warm up to a high of 30 with rain showers in the afternoon that will only cool it down till 26. In Kampala at 20 degrees. It's partly cloudy this morning. It's going to be a wet weekend throughout East Africa as well. Highs of 26 and lows of 20. It's clear skies in Dar es Salaam right now, but later on with scattered thunderstorms, highs of 30 and lows of 22. Taking a look into Johannesburg at 7 degrees, we'll have clear skies and sunny conditions all day and through the weekend with highs of 19 and lows of 6. Lagos is clear skies this morning at 28 degrees, highs of 33 and lows of 26. Good skies through into the weekend. Let's take a look at Paris. We're just getting to sunrise at 7 degrees. It'll be clear skies all through with highs of 18 and lows of 6. New York at almost midnight is cloudy. Chances are will be cloudy conditions through Friday and into the weekend with highs of 17 and lows of 8. And finally now for London at 6 degrees, it's clear skies, partly cloudy conditions through the rest of the day with highs of 18 and lows of 6.
Minutes after 6. Good morning. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. The live stream is up, www.spicefm.co.ke, SpiceFM KE on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. You can join the conversation as well via our Instagram page, SpiceFM KE. Today's proverb. This is what City calls an African proverb, meaning that many communities across Africa have this proverb in various forms and wordings. Send your child where he wants to go, and you will see his pace. Send your child where he wants to go, and you will see his pace.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what we're saying is, if you just let a child, child wants to go, let them go. You'll see where they go. You'll see the pace with which they walk. You'll see when they fall and stumble. You'll see how far they're willing to go. You'll see how many times they're willing to get up when they fall. Passion will always drive our actions. Okay?
This is true.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm letting you go. Baby.
Oh, jeez.
She's my child. Right? So we'll see. This is not similar to those ones of if you let the bird fly off, it comes back.
If it comes back,
it's yours.
To be there. If not,
This is different.
It's never yours.
And this is not mtoto akililia wembe
And this is
mpe.
not. This could be mtoto
Could be.
akililia wembe mpe, but no. This is mtoto akililia wembe mpe is more of let the world teach a child. You know,
What they want you give them.
Don't completely shield them. They will learn. Asiyefunzwa na mamake ufunzwa na ulimwengu. This one is let a child's passion drive them. Let them learn on their own.
There was this story of the lady whose son had been problematic. I don't know if you saw it.
Yep.
That she had tried everything.
A clip going around on social media.
We actually did that story. She had tried everything. He'd been stealing, snatching people's phones, tried all manner of things. Then he died of mob justice. And she was not remotely sorry.
It's like she had been waiting for this moment.
Yeah,
She was waiting
like,
for
I think
She's better safe dead.
Yep. Lord,
Wow.
please remove this cup if it's your will.
Yeah, and she was like, and the other boys who are not listening to their moms, this fate awaits you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is basically there are very many parents who get to that point. You've tried everything with your child and you get to a point where you're like, okay, clearly here, I think you're better off me knowing where you are. Remember that proverb of only a widow knows where her husband is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is one of
This
those
is one
where
of those.
this is better. It's instead of me waiting to be told, oh, he has stolen from so and so, or me wondering whether he's going to come back home and rob from this home. It's better for me to know this is where he is, 6 feet under. I'm going to put a cross. I'm going to put an epitaph that says he lived his life
The way he wanted.
the way he wanted to.
And he was only 19.
Imagine. It's never easy for a parent at that stage. Feel very, very sorry for her. Anyway, let's get a look at the headlines. What do you have? What do you want to start with? Ndu?
Well, I guess from what we see, front and center splashed everywhere. We'll ignore it for a minute. The front page of the Standard, Uhuru's Superpower Alliance, new lineup with DP Ruto pushed out of the inner sanctum. I love it. Sanctum of power. These men are coming to fill the void and shape the president's legacy and succession politics in a dramatic last term. I know, cue music. Probably look at that in more detail later. But on the top page of the Standard, yes, Kericho heiress fell, but was she pushed? Tekra suffered trauma on her face and internal bleeding. Her family's representatives insist she was pushed over, while Omars say the fall was accidental. It's a story of love, then push and pull. We know that she'll be laid to rest tomorrow, or rather this weekend, in a private burial. But the autopsy reveals that the cause of death as trauma on the left side of her face from a suspected fall, but dispute arises on how the fall occurred. There were no injuries and no defense wounds to point towards the struggle. A post-mortem conducted on the body was inconclusive, as representation from her family and those of her boyfriend failed to agree on the final report. The initial examination, which was conducted at the Lee Funeral Home on Tuesday, agreed that the cause of death was trauma to the left side of her face, most probably from a fall. The trauma resulted in a cut, a concussion, and internal bleeding. The two teams had included lawyer James Orengo and businessman Peter Kuguru for the family, and a lawyer for Lali Omar, Tekra's boyfriend, however, did not agree on how the fall came to be. The family representatives insisted that she was pushed, while the lawyer and pathologist representing Omar insisted that the fall was accidental. Sources privy to the autopsy said there were no other injuries on the body and no defense wounds to point towards a struggle prior to her death. The two teams agreed to meet again to agree on a final report before the deceased is laid to rest in a private ceremony. So the push and pull continues, and Omar has spent his 14th night behind bars in the Lamu police post, counting the trusses holding the roof of his cell.
Okay.
So
at least the autopsy is out. There is a professional information on what happened to her body.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the lawyers can start their arguments, the back and forth arguments. So there are no other marks to show defense that there was a struggle. Was this accidental? Was it not? It's sad for everybody involved here.
It is.
The family, of course, is thinking, come on, how we have lost a child. Omar himself, maybe, we don't know, maybe thinking, I have lost a friend. Right? Omar's family is thinking, our kin is behind bars and he's facing a long time in jail unless something comes to his aid. It's a sad story. Let's see how it unfolds, though.
Talking of other untimely, unfortunate deaths, the Nairobian's front page is a Tusker Project fame singer. This is Ruth Mateta. Let my husband rest in peace. Tusker Project fame singer can't bury happy because Nigerian embassy is sitting on the coffin. So this was another...
Sitting on the?
Coffin.
Not
where is the
literally
body?
sitting on the coffin. They're not like hanging out on the coffin.
But where is the body?
The
the morgue.
In the morgue.
So can you use another coffin?
No, it's a matter of speech, Eric.
So what is it that what's the Nigerian embassy's involvement in this?
I think they're doing an investigation in terms of finding out exactly how he died.
Remember, there was allegations that it was not an accidental death by fire. There was all of these things, the same as this trucker's death. So there was a lot of investigations going on to find out what exactly caused the death. And then remember, there was also allegations that, he'd been married also in Nigeria and therefore, who buries who. But
so being a Nigerian national, the Nigerian embassy has to okay the burial. Is that what we are saying? So the Nigerian embassy basically is saying we are not going to okay this burial.
But part of the story has documents from his family saying his wife Ruth can go ahead and bury him. Yeah. So this push and pull needs to be settled.
His family in Nigeria is basically saying she should go ahead and bury him because, of course, in COVID times, the practice would have been that he is taken home.
He's transported, yes.
Right? But in the times in which we are living now, it's obvious that he would be buried here. And his family has more or less given consent that they can go ahead and bury him here. But it would seem that the High Commission here, with all the stories that have been coming back and forth, they would like to be involved in their own investigation and find out a Nigerian citizen having died in Kenya under these circumstances and the stories flying. They want to do and find out exactly what may have happened.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So those are the two headlines. There's the other headline on the Standard this morning, where Euro takes a beating from Kibisho on land. There's the project, the Kemri project in Kirinyaga County. This is an acrimonious fallout between the Kirinyaga governor and the Interior PS ends after the state compulsorily acquires a 100-acre land at the center of the dispute. Now, this is on page 12 of the Standard. This is a project that has taken quite a while to get off the ground. There was to be a center, a Kemri research center in Kirinyaga. There was a lot of back and forth between the national government and the county government. Yesterday, Land's Principal Secretary Nicholas Muragori confirmed that the government had cancelled the title deed held by Kirinyaga County government and issued a fresh one to Kemri. Dr. Muragori says his ministry had engaged the National Land Commission in seeking for new title deed after the tussle with the county government escalated. Okay. The governor had been fighting for an assurance that locals would be guaranteed job opportunities as well as other benefits to accrue from these projects. Kibicho, who has been at loggerheads with Waiguru over the issue, says there's no need for the issue to be resolved. There was need for the issue to be resolved for the project to kick off. So those in Kirinyaga and those who are looking at Kirinyaga, observers of Kirinyaga politics, are seeing like this is one of the battlefields between the governor and the interior PS. Some are alleging that the interior PS is looking at his future and he'd like to venture into politics, or at least have a lot more influence in his county of origin. And there's the governor who's there. So this was one very well-positioned playing field. Well, now land has been compulsorily acquired by the government from the county government. Kenya.
Well,
page 2 of the Standard. Can I just give you this one before we do traffic?
Go ahead.
A man has been found guilty of killing a woman for turning down his marriage proposal. Justice Janet Muller ruled that Dennis Kipkoech killed Rose Awori on December 6, 2016 at Ingobor, Kapkuria's location, Nakuru County. Muller said that although no witnesses saw the accused chopping off the woman's head, 3 witnesses placed him on the scene of crime. There is sufficient circumstantial evidence that links the offense to the accused. This is what the judge said. The murder weapon, a machete, was found beside the body of the deceased inside the accused person's house. The accused was also found in the house with his hands soaked in blood. Mulwa added that not only did the accused fail to explain how the body got into his house, but there was no evidence tendered to show that any other person had visited that house. Kipkoech was arraigned on February 6, 2017 and denied the murder charge. Prosecution had called 6 witnesses. One of them, Hilary Mutua, testified that he knew the accused because he used to work at his uncle's farm. Mutua testified that on the fateful day, the accused called him to his house and informed him that he had murdered Awori because she rejected his request to marry her. To marry him, obviously. She rejected the request. She rejected the request to marry him.
Wow, that seems to be a tough one.
This is tragic, at the very least. Okay, I have no words.
No more words, right?
Yeah.
No more words. The family of the deceased would sit there and wonder, surely. And then the person himself could be sitting there and saying, my mental status at the point.
That's what I'm about to ask. Is he okay?
In this case, clearly he was not.
Clearly, he was not at that point. But before, of course, before this murder trial commenced, he had undergone some psychiatric evaluation, and he was found fit to stand trial. So he's been found guilty. That's that.
And it's done.
That's that.
Done and dusted.
Yep. Hopefully, justice has been served on both sides.
Hopefully.
24 minutes to 7. Let's take a look at traffic. Good morning. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room, we are very Latif, Nduoko, and Dr. Mercy Korir.
Okay, this Friday morning, it seems like traffic on Mombasa Road already at 6:30 is bumper to bumper. And this is between the SGR to the airport turnoff, then getting towards Cabanas and then down towards General Motors. It's already bumper to bumper. Hopefully that will open up. After that, though, it's not too terrible. Getting to Bellevue and then to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout seems to be okay. Outer Ring to Allsops, Juja Road and Komarok Road. Traffic today is flowing very well and it's clear at this point. Let's see what it looks like later. But for now, you shouldn't have much of a problem getting in and out of where you need to be this morning. All right, on Thika Road, getting into the CBD via the Pangani Underpass and then Globe Cinema Roundabout is looking good. We don't have many problems today so far as traffic is concerned. We'd like to hear from you, of course, if you do see something that we should know about. Don't hesitate to let us know on Twitter, SpiceFMKE, and we will shout it out if we find anything that's out of the ordinary.
All right, more and more headlines in the newspapers today, this being a Friday.
Daily Nation. Curfew and travel bans set for review today. Today is the, as you would say, Eric, the 21th. Today is the 21st day of the second phase of the cessation of movement.
We've done 42 days.
Can you believe it?
Can you believe it?
Huh?
I think it's 49. If you count from the 27th.
Tomorrow is the 21th day. Saturday.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
And each of them was 21 days.
No, but we did the math. It's like 49.
Combined, right?
How are you getting the days?
I know.
If you're told stay indoors for 21 days and then it's extended by another 21 days.
42.
No. It was announced on 27th March, right?
The first one.
Yes.
For 21 days.
For 21 days. And we finished 40 days.
21 days.
30 days of April. Between 27th March and 31st March is 4 days. And we've done 15 days of May. Those are 49 days, right?
Sasa.
You do the math. Eric, you're the one who passed mathematics with flying colors. Those are 49 days. Okay. So I don't know why.
So there's a week here.
There's a week here we have lost.
Where we were not really sure what was going on, but there was still cessation of movement, right? Between announcements and enforcement.
So this is the one for Nairobi.
Sorry?
No, curfew.
Curfew and travel rules. The countrywide. Curfew.
The curfew, the 7 to 5 a.m.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. The government plans to review security measures put in place to control the spread of COVID this weekend. It comes as scientists and economists differ on whether to reopen the economy fully or continue with the partial lockdown. All security measures, including cessation of movement in and out of select counties, are due to expire this weekend. Other regulations have already expired. The National Command Center on the Coronavirus Pandemic is currently reviewing the enforcement of the existing public health measures against the rising number of positive cases and will present its findings to President Kenyatta tomorrow. Security officers have said that restrictions in some areas could be eased as others are tightened based on current risk and projections. It's also likely that more sectors in the economy could be reopened following an evaluation of whether the controlled reopening of restaurants is working or not. The government will also determine what to do with border towns, which are emerging as problem areas. They include Isebania. I don't know how to say that. Isebania. Busia, Kajiado, Mandera, Wajir, and Namanga. There's likelihood of some of them, like Eastleigh and Mombasa Old Town, facing stricter restrictions. Health Chief Administration Secretary Mercy Mwangangi hinted at what is to come for areas registering a spike in cases yesterday. And I quote, "The government is closely watching the development. We appeal to communities living in border counties to exercise Nyumba Kumi." So we'll know tomorrow. It's likely that we will hear from the Office of the President by the time the weekend is over.
Okay. Let's place our bets.
What's here yours? We go. It's Friday.
Extension of the night curfew.
You think it's going to happen?
Yep.
You think there's going to be an extension of the cessation of movement within counties?
Yep.
Yes.
Well, so do I. So, I mean, can we bring in somebody else?
Okay. So, Betty.
We should call John.
So the president doesn't need to announce anything. Just send a statement.
Just send us a statement.
Just send a statement.
Yeah.
Don't call us fellow Kenyans. Okay.
Not yet.
But I don't think they're ready to open up.
No.
And likely we'll be talking to the hotel industry.
Yeah.
We'll get to hear. I don't think they've opened up the way government anticipated, because the requirements to open up were punitive, in my opinion. They were not
even the regulations they were just released just the other day on what exactly you need to do to get yourself certified to open. So looking at how many people need to go for tests and the certification process and all, I mean, we cannot even say that any restaurant has opened up yet to this.
You can't. Yeah. You're better off just continuing with the takeaway that they had put in there, because it would cost more, and the times are, they're tough times.
Yeah.
Speaking of tough times and where there's no movement, fuel pump prices have dropped to the biggest fall in over a decade. It's a good time to be a motorist after fuel pump prices dropped by about 20 shillings for every litre. And of course, the complaints have come out, well, that's fantastic, but we're not going anywhere. So how does it help anybody? Relief for motorists is that...
and buy and store.
But I mean... But
the drop has seen Kenya...
The matatu fares are still the same.
Still the same, exactly. The drop has seen Kenyan motorists start enjoying the benefits of the collapse in international crude prices after more than 2 years of waiting. In the latest monthly review, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, cut diesel prices by the biggest margin of 19.9 shillings per litre, giving transporters and big manufacturers a major relief. Petrol and kerosene have also reduced by 9.54 and 2.49 shillings per litre respectively from last night, when oil marketers were expected to adjust their pump prices. EPRA, however, said that computation of the pump price took into account the changes occasioned by the Tax Laws Amendment Act of 2020, which made taxes and other levies part of the vatable amount in the calculation of value-added tax for petroleum products. This effectively denied motorists extra savings. And this was specifically for petroleum products. So that's why you see things like kerosene not receiving the large drop.
Even if somebody came with an oil tanker at the port of Mombasa and said, I am donating fuel for the next 1 month to the people of Kenya, we're going to pay at least 40 bob to the government.
Because of this amendment.
Because we have a government.
By virtue of the fact that we have a government.
Because we have a government, we're going to pay for every free thing that we receive. Okay, unfortunately.
We're paying for tests for coronavirus, and the Jack Ma Foundation, Alibaba Foundation donated.
Clinton Foundation has given us.
Africa CDC.
There's a general
WHO.
There's a general thinking that because, and which kind of makes sense when you want to look at economics, then is that when you have high prices on things like food and consumables, this is because that you've added the fuel factor to it. So there's a general thinking that with this reduction, that there will also then be a reduction on some consumer products, which should be the cycle. It would be interesting to see how that will unfold and in what succession after this announcement and this change this will happen. You're likely to see that there will be reduction on prices on consumables in the short term. It would be interesting to see where, because then now farm to market gets a little bit cheaper in terms of transport. However, if it is applied, it would be fantastic. But we already see that transport fares have not.
It cannot come down. Remember, a matatu is now carrying half the passengers. So
using less on fuel.
You tell them to reduce even that, and they're still using the same. If you're looking in the past 40 days, or how many days since they were told to, when they were ordered to do this, however many days since they were told to carry half the passengers, they were still using the same amount of fuel. When you come from South B to town with a full load or with an empty vehicle or with half the passengers, you're using the same amount of fuel. So they've been bearing the burden of reduced passengers. You expect them to pass on this benefit to you for gallons.
They passed on the challenge to you. They passed on the challenge to you by increasing the fares. It would be interesting to see if this happens.
If they reduce, maybe they may reduce. Marginally.
I wouldn't hold my breath.
Marginally. 13 minutes to 7. Let's take a short break. The conversation continues.
You do that.
11 minutes to 7. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. You want to look at the political headline?
Yeah, I mean, we can't run away from it. If you look at the Standard, Nation, the Star, everyone has a political headline. Remember, like a good 30 days ago, all our headlines were coronavirus. Now, we have gone back to default settings.
We are learning to live with it.
Spice up your life.
Even the WHO is like, according to the international health regulations, we either declare that we have a public health emergency or we don't. And I think in Kenya, probably we think we don't, because now look at Taifa Leo. Shoka la Uhuru latua Mount Kenya, latua Mlima Kenya. And the photos there are ladies led by Kandara MP Alice Wahome. Washirika wa kisiasa wa naibu rais William Ruto katika eneo la Mlima Kenya wameingiwa na tumbo joto kufuatia ripoti kuwa shoka la rais Uhuru Kenyatta sasa linaelekezwa kwao. Hii ni baada ya kubainika kuwa rais ameamua kuwazima wanachama wa kundi la Tangatanga kwa kuwataka wapiga kura kuwafuta kazi. So basically, go back and seek re-election. You either play as we are saying, or you go back and seek re-election, which is also the same story on page 4 of the Standard. And this time around, the Standard is saying, women MPs accuse Jubilee of oppression. Lawmakers displeased with removal of Nakuru Senator Kihika as chief whip, subjecting others to disciplinary action. And we saw 5 nominated senators had a show cause letter from the party to give reasons why they did not attend the parliamentary group meeting at State House. So yeah, this removal of Murkomen Kihika further revealed the deep cracks in the ruling party. So I think what we are seeing is that the people who are standing firmly on Tangatanga are standing firmly on Tangatanga. Those who are lukewarm are standing on the fence, and we have seen them. And I think my colleague Nzao Musau has captured it very well on page 6, where he's saying, hell hath no fury like political sponsor rattled.
Yep.
It's actually a very beautiful read about how people started changing their Facebook and Twitter profiles.
People are falling all
align
backwards.
themselves.
It's realignments. You realize that when someone like Alice Wahome comes out, she has realized that it's very clear where she stands, and there's absolutely no way that she can go and convince the other side that I'm with you. So just stick where you are. And then those who are nominated, those who owe their position to the party. And now they're being threatened with some action.
Yeah.
And these are the nominated senators like Millicent Omanga. They are now trying to play that game. Remember, there was also the issue of how many had signed the list. Or none of the nominated senators wrote a letter to the whip saying, the new whip saying, for avoidance of doubt. I was not physically present in that meeting.
Because of COVID.
Because of COVID restrictions. But I completely and wholeheartedly associate myself with all the outcomes of that meeting.
I like how Alice Wahome and these other ladies have, camouflaged their support by saying, as party members and women leaders in Jubilee, we want to express solidarity with Senator Susan Kihika and all nominated senators served with show cause letters by the party Secretary General. We reject and denounce the manner in which our party has selectively issued letters to women-nominated senators who allegedly did not attend a parliamentary group meeting at State House. So they're playing the gender card.
Yeah, rather blatantly.
Yeah. I remember in the show cause letter, there was a man.
Rather blatantly. There is a man called Victor Prengay.
Yeah.
Victor Prengay is a nominated senator. Of course, many of the nominated senators are going to be women, and it's by design because they're coming to represent. It's for
the 2/3.
Yes, rule. and also not only for the 2/3. What's that other word? The marginalized and all, right? So that's why we have women being nominated into parliament. But I think for the women legislators to come out and break it down into this is an attack against women, all the gains we've made on women leadership and women representation are being eroded. That is fallacious. Let's just call them out.
I think it was rich. It was rich coming from them. I think we pulled quite thin on this one.
It's just being politically correct. Because here, if you come out and say...
it's looking for a way to somebody has just called you out and you're saying, are you doing that because I'm black? Because I'm black, and yet you actually committed the crime. And you don't just use your gender or your race. Come on.
But you gotta give it to them. This was a smart thinking, because obviously
there was no other way they could have come out.
Yeah, because if you come out blatantly and say you are attacking our so-called leader, where we are allied,
targeting Tanga people.
Exactly. Then it would have been all-out war on them. But here, when you come and say you're targeting women, how do you replace a female chief whip with a male chief whip? What are you trying to say about women leadership? It sort of plays to people's psyche in a way, people who are gullible.
It's sensationalist. It's sensationalist because now people start to think, oh my goodness, so it actually wasn't about political alignment, or it wasn't about disturbance within a party. What it really was about is continuing to make sure the patriarchy reigns and that you're going to have a foot on the neck of women all the time, which, look, let's just be honest, a lot of that is still heavily practiced. But in this case, I don't think the gender card, that's what I was saying, is really rich from Alice Wahome and the likes. It's really rich from them to be able to pull that out.
and if you can see the whole, everyone, it was all women.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
With masks, physical distancing, it was well played out. So I think for the theatrics, I've got to give it to them.
But looking at this story by Nza Musau, right, on what was happening for people trying to come back playing the sycophancy card. On social media, nominated MP David Ole Sankok and Omanga played the quintessential Kenyan politician to save their skins. The two are renowned political zealots of Deputy President William Ruto, but the possibility of being guillotined must have jolted them. While Senate Majority Whip Irungo Kangata's team was tying the loose ends for a disciplinary action, their master ducked, forcing commentators like Professor Makau Mutua to taunt him. I am flabbergasted. William Ruto foot soldiers are being picked off one by one while he cowers under the bed in Karen. The man from Sugoi should stand up and defend his men and women. No general abandons his fighters. At 9:57 a.m. on Monday, 3 minutes to the appointed hour at State House, Sankok had changed his profile to include a picture of himself, making faces behind as the president lifted a baby girl. Yesterday, he reposted a set of pictures of himself, Ruto, and former Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto with a cryptic caption, memories are made of this. But it was Mama Miradi, this is Omanga, who carried the day with a Twitter profile picture, a campaign photo of herself and the president, the latter holding her hand in a manner likely to suggest that he was about to receive a handpeck.
Voila.
Now captured it.
I know.
Perfectly.
Hey. Nominated Senator Christine Zawadi had led the way, pledging allegiance to the new leadership. Zawadi signed up her letter saying, however, I do hereby endorse the resolutions of the said PG meeting. For avoidance of doubt, these are my new leaders in the Senate. People are basically saying, let's play game. This is how we're going to play this game. I'm going to play this game. I'm going to save my skin.
Saving skin.
Alice Wahome can go and talk all she wants. She's guaranteed. She was an elected MP. All right? She at least has 2 more years of receiving a salary and repaying her mortgage and loans.
These are the fellows who
I'm a nominated person. If I'm kicked out tomorrow, I have to repay my mortgage and my loan through other means. Why?
But if you see, the other women in the press conferences also, I think, also showed up confidently because they are also elected.
Yeah.
This was a women rep from Nandi, Tekla Tum, from Elgeyo Marakwet, Janet Chebaibai, Joyce Korir of Bomet, and then we have MP Bomet East, that is Beatrice Kones, and Malindi Aisha Jumo. So these ones have...
these are all elected MPs.
They fought to be where they are.
Elected MPs, and they know the process of trying to recall an MP. They had ensured, the parliament had ensured it's as difficult as it can be.
That's what I'm telling you. They just pulled this gender tool to be able to find some kind of support. But in terms of it having any depth, sorry, not in this case.
This conversation continues in the next hour. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's remind you, today's proverb is an African proverb. Send your child where he wants to go, and you will see his pace. Send your child wherever he wants to go, and you will see his pace. Passion must always drive our actions. If you let somebody be, their passion will let them soar to greater heights. Good morning. It's coming up to 7 o'clock. In the next hour, we'll also be talking to a hotelier to find out how the hotel industry, Kenya's hospitality industry, is dealing with COVID and preparing for the post-COVID era. Good morning. 7 o'clock.
Looking into the CBD right now, unfortunately, a bad accident right smack in the middle involving a bus right around Ronald Gala. And crowds are forming. This means that traffic in and out of the CBD, which is quite heavy at this hour, is going to be affected. So if you're outskirts and trying to come in or trying to get out, this is the problem. A bus has overturned. There's a severe accident there. So you need to be very, very careful. We still see bumper to bumper on Mombasa Road this morning, and that is right around Cabanas heading towards General Motors. You need to be a little bit patient. You'll get out of there in good time. It's all good on Gong Road. It's not so bad this morning, and Thika Road also looks good. We don't have many problems right around 7 o'clock on Thika Road today and right around the city. So let us know if you see something that we should know about. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter, and let's see how we can keep it moving.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a founder.
Exercising their authority fully and reminding everybody who's the boss. Let's speak about this one president, the president of the Law Society of Kenya. He's taken action. Nelson Harvey Former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka and former Justice Minister Martha Karua are among 24 lawyers whose nomination to the rank of senior counsel has been revoked. Now, there's a committee that looks at lawyers and it nominates them to be appointed by the president or to be named by the president as senior counsel. In a decision likely to lead to a fallout among its members, the LSK said it's taking the drastic action to correct the mistake made by the committee on appointment of senior counsel, which allegedly overlooked some deserving candidates. A letter written to more than 10,000 LSK members, the society's president Nelson Harvey says his team has decided to revoke the conferment of senior counsel ranks following complaints of impartiality and favoritism in the manner the 24 were selected. Okay. Controversy emerged last year after the Committee on Appointment of Senior Counsel recommended the 24 names, which some lawyers challenged in court, claiming the selection process was skewed to reward some advocates who did not deserve the honor.
You know, I was reading this story and, okay, so maybe lawyers would explain to us better, but it's just a title of senior counsel.
No,
it is not clear what other privileges and anything else you get, just apart from adding SC at the end of your name. So I think for me, I'm still struggling to understand why this is such a big deal.
Even if we don't look at any other commercial or financial benefits, all right? When your profession recognizes you as among the revered people in the profession, there's something. You gain status. It's very important. And then now beyond that, when it comes to the advocates' pay scheme, senior counsel will not be. When you're a senior counsel, even your law firm gets some sort of recognition. You will not just go and charge, for anything. You think about Nasir Abdullahi, senior counsel, would charge whatever everybody else would. No.
Well, definitely, there's also some prestige and recognition that comes along with it. So, a senior counsel,
it's everything else that comes with just an ego and a status of having such a title. That's the fight here. No, see, I'm asking. That's what I'm saying. I'm struggling to understand. I need somebody to make me understand.
Recognition. Recognition comes with it. I mean, it comes with.
Let's just start with that recognition.
I'm struggling. So, if the council has the LSK council that vets this, things they should relook at this. What's the big deal?
What's a big deal about a big deal about a university conferring on someone professor? What is the big deal?
No, professor, you've worked hard for it. But in this case,
but not everybody who's worked hard is not an automatic thing. A university decides to actually make you a professor.
True, but we are looking.
What is it that comes with professor? No. Does professor come with more money?
I think we are comparing apples and oranges. Let's look at this particular story. This one, where a council, members within LSK, sit and look at names that have been nominated. Then they decide A, B, C, and D. So I'm just looking because I think they said the last time this was done was 2012. And now we are in 2020, 8 years later. The names that were nominated in 2019, they've refused to, confirm them. So if the new president of LSK says this process is flawed, A, B, C, and D, let's look at this, then it's fine. Go through the process again, relook at it. But it shouldn't be such a big deal. So and they're saying really, they wait as senior counsel is recalled. So they're just waiting. So it's just a matter of realigning the process, sorting it out so that people who deserve actually get to be given this prestigious title that comes with no other
already this one is already imputing improper motive on very respected members of the law society, right? The selection committee comprised of Justice Mohammed Ibrahim, Lady Justice Martha Koome, right? Lady Justice Jacqueline Kamau, Attorney General Kehara Kariuki, Patricia Mbote, Lucy Kambuni, Omesh Kapila, Nicholas Bichanga, and Rene Omondi. These already are distinguished members of the profession. So when you come and say, you know what, we think there was favoritism and all, already it's throwing mud at them. One, it's good that members can react, and it's very important that members agree that yes, the people who've been elevated deserve to be elevated, but also it shouldn't be such a back and forth. We shouldn't be getting here to a point where a list is actually withheld and said, we need to redo this process. What is that talking about the profession? What's that talking about the Law Society of Kenya?
It just means, like every other profession, Eric, you're bound to have bad apples, you're bound to have bad elements. So if this is a matter of realigning and sorting out weeding the profession of bad elements, why not? It's good for the profession at the end of the day. And remember, here they're saying you apply to be admitted to the exclusive club, which is reserved for lawyers who have set precedents in the area of practice.
Yes.
So if you have set some precedents and you can prove it and, there is evidence to that effect, then you will just make it to the list. I don't see what the big deal is, quite frankly. Sort out your processes so that at the end of in another 100 years, because here you're looking at posterity, you do not have to know so and so for you to make it to the list.
The people who started already when it came out, in fact, even when on this show, when it came out, we were like, all right. But somebody like Kiraitu Murungi has practiced law in this country for long, has participated, he has been a justice minister in the country, has served in the clamor for multi-party democracy in the country, was not recognized in this list. Why? What happened?
And it's not the only one. They have former Speaker Kenneth Marende, former LSK President Allen Gishuhi, his predecessor before that, Eric Mutua, other lawyers, Thomas Letangule, Donald Kipkorir, Katwa Kigen, Evans Monari, and former Solicitor General Nje Muturi.
So some of those ones you can ask, so why do we have to have former Solicitor General Nje Muturi becoming senior counsel? What has he done? You can start asking all those questions.
You can ask that question. Yeah, that's the thing. You can ask that question about anybody. Once you start to ask and start to throw the...
There are those that we can say, if you think about someone like John Haminwa, right?
Yeah.
Members of the professional, this man has practiced for long. This man he has some pedigree. All right? Kiraitu Murungi has some pedigree. You can say Kenneth Marende, virtue of rising to Speaker of the National Assembly and holding that position, maybe gives him pedigree. The LSK president, he was president at that point, and we know that the first list that came out of senior counsel looked at previous LSK presidents and chairpersons. All of them were just basically made into senior counsel.
Automatically.
Yeah.
So,
Eric Mutua and Allen Gishuhi. Now, that's a question that you can ask. I mean, we have already set precedent and said, if you rise to the position where fellow lawyers elect you to be the president, the head of a Law Society of Kenya, then you already have been placed on the top perch.
But these things are made by man. They can be amended by man. They can be modified by man. If you think just following precedents is not good for the profession, you can change. And then there's the other factor that they're using, eminence they have reached in the law profession. How do you qualify eminence? Is it your popularity? I mean, you can go to all TV stations and talk like you know everything.
Yeah.
But then in the profession, you cannot even win a case.
What kind of matters have you handled in law?
So, for me, really, let the LSK sort out their things. Once they decide how they will be running this process, how they'll be making changes, how they'll be conferring senior counsel, then they can let us know who the senior counsel is. But really, this is domestics, isn't it? Domains that have made it to the newspaper.
Okay.
I agree with you. They are domains, but they're important domains.
I don't believe in coincidence, but that today that we are speaking to the CS in the Treasury, Mr. Kuyatani, the story has emerged that the Parliamentary Budget Office flags unexplained 8.1 billion shilling allocation for finished road projects.
Finished?
Yes. This is on the back page of the Daily Nation. Some 64 projects which were completed long ago and some of which have been paid by the taxpayers, you and I, have mysteriously been allocated a cumulative 8.1 billion shillings in the new budget. the Parliamentary Budget Office has unearthed the suspicious expenditure plan contained in the new 2021 budget, raising questions on what exactly the government is paying for. The revelation casts the spotlight on the Jubilee administration's strategy of spending billions of shillings on expensive infrastructure projects while unable to stick its own policy of completing old projects before starting new ones. In the latest report unpacking the estimates of revenue and expenditure for 2020-21 released this month, the PBO notes that the Treasury has allocated money for a second time to projects that had been finalized. Analyses of the projects have revealed that some projects have been allocated resources despite having been finalized. It also reveals that projects that had been completed by February this year are still on the list for additional payments. Treasury Cabinet Secretary Okuyatani did not pick up calls yesterday or respond to text messages seeking clarification. There is something wrong with paying money for projects after they've been completed, don't you think?
And I'm wondering, remember there's a time when the current president, Uhuru Kenyatta, when he was the deputy prime minister and finance minister, when he was presenting the budget to parliament, there was some zeros missing.
To put it lightly.
Yes. Is this another case where I'm hoping this is it, because the other alternative is not nice. Today, to kotuna habari za tanzia, the other alternative is not nice. Is it just an innocent mistake?
Well, some of these innocent
error?
Well, okay, look, there's nothing wrong with paying for projects after it has been completed. Okay, it's completed, we're still making the payments, etc., etc. However, there's something wrong if a project worth billions of shillings, like Thika Superhighway, for example, or a bypass, Southern Bypass, Eastern Bypass, whatever, is completed. The government is expected to pay in the ratio of completed works and not 10 years after the completion certificate was handed over. It is not clear why projects worth billions would be paid in denominations of about 5 million shillings. So in the time within which a project has been completed, 10 years after, the payment for that project should not be set into the budget cycle for the fiscal year. That's the problem that we see now.
The fact that the Parliamentary Budget Office is picking it up is because it shows that there's an anomaly.
Yes.
This is not something that should happen. I mean, it's glaring to them. And the question goes back to the person who presented this in the budget. What exactly are you doing? How do you make such a mistake? There's some mistakes. You can say, there's a zero. A zero can be, there was a zero, there was a zero confusion. But adding an entire
8 billion?
Come on. And you even say this is for this particular project. This is for the construction of the Spice FM studio in the next financial year. We are paying this amount of money. What do you think would happen to Tom Japani if he did that? He took it to the management and board. You know what? For the next financial year,
let's pay for this.
The last one, he went and asked for budget to build a studio, and then he still goes and asks for budget to build the same studio. What do you mean?
This is exactly.
Were you asleep? What is this that you're bringing to us? These are some of the things that you ask yourself, what exactly is happening? Do you
want some examples?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Some of the projects that have been reported are completed are the 25.1 billion Nairobi Southern Bypass, whose completion date was July 2015. Do your math. But the project has received an allocation of 100 million in the 2021 budget that starts in July. The rehabilitation of the Sultan Hamoud Machakos turnoff, the A109, which was completed in 2012, has received 65 million, while the rehabilitation of the Njoro turnoff at Timboroa Road has been allocated 99 million. Other suspicious allocations include the rehabilitation of the Kericho Nyamasaria Road, 5 million, and the Nyamasaria Kisian Road, 5 million, and the Busia one-stop border post, 20 million. The one-stop border post in Lunga Lunga will receive 20 million. The rehabilitation of the Webuye Kitale Road, 50 million. The rehabilitation of the Majia Chumvi Bachuma Gate, 10 million. And the interchanges in Nyahururu, Njoro, and Mau Summit turnoffs will get 10 million. These projects were completed between 2010 and 2012, and their budgets had already been approved.
So
finished.
And that's important. The important point there is, was there a budget?
Had been approved.
Was it approved? Was it a complete budget? Was there any money that had not been paid out?
Corruption, and we
if
go
it,
on
if
to
it was,
say,
then
there's a problem.
There's a problem.
Corruption scandals have been known to take place when the country is focused on other things, such as the election.
In fact, Kenyans were saying, were casting doubt on why all of a sudden we have,
Politics.
Nights of long nights.
Yeah, what's happening?
Suddenly.
What's a distraction?
What are we not supposed to see?
There's a dead
Kenyans are
cat.
conspiratorial, and they'll never come out. They will not go beyond that. So you do the investigation then and tell us what we are not seeing. 18 minutes after 7. Take a break, take a look at weather. Tell us whether it's raining at the Majia Chumvi Bachuma Road and the others. Whether it's been washed off. Maybe we are building it afresh. Maybe it's a new road. All right. Good morning. This is A Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
In Nairobi later on. The skies look to be gearing up for that. Mostly cloudy conditions this morning. It's still a bit warm at 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 16. In Nyeri, it's mostly cloudy at 16 degrees. Rain showers expected for early parts of the morning. 23 the high and lows of 16 today. Clear skies in Nakuru this morning. It is quite sunny. That will all change the later part of the day with highs of 25. It'll welcome showers. And in Eldoret, this morning at 13 degrees is mostly sunny. That too will change. We're getting into a weekend of rain throughout the country. 19 degrees in Kisumu and partly cloudy this morning, but it will be showering in the afternoon with highs of 28 and lows of 19. It's mostly cloudy in Mombasa right now. That'll change later though with highs of 30. Incoming rain. Malindi at 27 degrees is mostly cloudy this morning and will be a beneficiary of the rain as well with highs of 30 and lows of 26. The rain front continues well into Kampala with a wet weekend in store. Highs of 26 and lows of 20 and rain likely to carry on through till Monday. The same remains in Dar es Salaam where it's mostly cloudy this morning. Chances of rain very high to take us well into the weekend. Taking a look further south into Johannesburg, it's sunny conditions through and through at 7 degrees. We'll see highs of 19 and lows of 6. Great weather in the southern parts of the continent. Light thunderstorms have already started in Lagos at 27 degrees and they're likely to carry through most of the afternoon with highs of 33 and lows of 26.
Treasury Ambassador Ukuriatani. He'll be joining us in the next hour, 8 a.m. So we'll be
mature, intelligent talk every morning.
One of them,
spice up yourself.
What is it that has been presented to the National Assembly? What is it that the National Parliamentary Budget Office is speaking?
Mornings
Why are we
right.
seeing
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Already been completed and had already been budgeted for and budgets approved. One of the questions. Other questions we'll be asking, of course, is what Dr. Mercy Korir was asking yesterday. Pesa yetu ni ngapi?
Why doesn't Kemri have?
As if you expect an answer from the National Treasury CS. How much do you have in the granary?
Yes, exactly.
Tuko na mahindi gunia tatu, maharagwe debe tatu.
So that you can plan,
So you can plan. If we have a half or nothing, what is the case? All right, I know Mercy's itching for us to look at the front page of the Nation today. Raila orders purge in ODM. Taking a cue from President Kenyatta, Orange Party chief moves to put his house in order in the Senate and the National Assembly with plans to reconstitute committees and lay the ground for the smooth implementation, oh good Lord, of the Building Bridges initiative.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
The purge is on the purge is
ODM.
He's kicking out some ODM members.
Well, at a meeting yesterday, Mr. Odinga told his lieutenants, no less, to move quickly and change the composition of the committees. The changes, he said, are part of the preparations to start the legal process he's working on with the president for implementing the report once COVID-19 is contained. So BBI is still front and center for a lot of these folks, right? Mm-hmm. The 4-hour meeting was held at Orange House with party leaders, insiders rather, saying Mr. Kenyatta and the ODM chief are keen on taking complete control of the two houses in implementing the agenda. Those who attended the meeting, which started at 2:30 p.m. and ended at about 6, was Senate Minority Leader James Orengo. He is a National Assembly counterpart to John Badi, Minority Whip Junet Mohammed, and ODM Head of Political Affairs, and Ugunja MP Opiu Wandani. Others, Wandayi,
Yes.
Others were Party Secretary General Edwin Sofuna, ODM Executive Director Odworo Ngwen, and Party Treasurer Timothy Bosire. Mm-hmm. Those who may be shown the door, the axe. Well, this is what we know. Mr. Odinga's party has not provided details of its intended actions, but we know who was shown the axe in Jubilee. The party is cleaning up, according to David Murathe. You cannot implement the Jubilee agenda with a hostile leadership. You can take this to the bank. The purge is coming. This is what David Murathe said then about Jubilee and what they intend to do in the National Assembly.
So if you marry that with what the Star has, which is inside Kenyatta's succession war team. And the pictures are there. Apart from President Uhuru Kenyatta, you have David Murathe, Raphael Tuju, Nancy Gitau, and Muhoho Kenyatta. Jubilee Party top dogs led by Murathe, Tuju are in total control of the boss's agenda. Uhuru's, from the inner circle, according to the Star, Uhuru's younger brother Muhoho is the de facto leader of the trusted lieutenants. And down there, there's a question mark. Are we likely to see a unity government? So unity government. Raila's Orange Party welcomes offer to work with Jubilee. So opposition chief Raila Odinga on Thursday led talks with a crucial decision-making organ of ODM to strike deal on his working terms with Jubilee. President Kenyatta's team is eyeing deal with Raila's camp before the end of the week. And I think the Nation has it that we're just looking at BBI. So at the end of the day, people are just realigning themselves.
We're looking at governance, how to have a smooth running government.
Okay.
It's going to be the government of national unity. Like
Eric,
the standard is telling us.
Eric, you don't believe what you're saying.
That's immaterial. Like the standard is telling us, in what is shaping up as the government of national unity, Uhuru and ODM leader Raila Odinga sit at the apex. Wiper's Kalonzo, Kanu's Gideon Moi, Ford Kenya's Wetangula, Chama cha Mashinani's Isaac Ruto are below them. So it clearly appears that Isaac Ruto's Chama cha Mashinani is angling also for some alliance with the ruling party. There was a tweet yesterday by Simba Guled, who's one of the senior officials of the Mashinani KE party. The leadership of the Chama cha Mashinani, Isaac Ruto and Zakayo Cheruyot and the NEC have jointly resolved to form a post-election coalition agreement with Jubilee to be deposited with the Register of Political Parties for formal signing soon. So, more and more are coming on board. Those are two. Jogo Ndani, Mashinani Ndani. Wiper is saying we are talking with our brothers, Ford Kenya, Amani, and ODM. Right? Those ones are already have their own pre-election coalition. So is it the NASA coalition that's going to come in and have a working relationship with Jubilee? Finished. So now who's in the opposition? Tanga is the Jubilee party. They live, they go and form their own party, then they come here and oppose.
Earlier in the week, we said there's Jubilee in government
and Jubilee
in opposition. So if you look at the palaver, there is Mr. Githuku, who avers that Kenyan presidents become fire, quote unquote, at some point. Old Jomo became fire at some stage. Good old Jaramogi Odinga was thrown off balance politically. Daniel Arap Moi became fire after the attempted 1982 coup. Mwai Kibaki became fire, quote unquote, a few years into his first term and fired Tinga and his team. In his second term, since the whole world was watching, he could not sack Tinga, who was then Prime Minister. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has become fire, quote unquote. He is reorganizing the Senate and the National Assembly. So basically,
it's fire. It's fire season.
Same script, different cast.
Look, because we talk about politics in this country, and we said it's still so far. There's still so much time if you're looking at 2022 as a benchmark for things that could occur. There's still so much time. When did we see all of this happening? 3 weeks, and suddenly they're aligned in the last 1 week.
Just like that.
Just like that. People who were speaking a totally different language just 3 months ago are now aligning themselves in a manner in which they didn't think they would align.
Yep.
People who were saying totally different things. And I'm telling you, watch. It's like a day is like 1,000 years in politics. Anything can happen, and I'm actually not surprised. And look, I'm telling you, people they're talking about being cornered and ousted and outplayed will find themselves even them, they can come and have conversations.
Let's see, actually, if we have a peaceful, government without rumblings, but people are inside and they're just talking amongst themselves and they're agreeing and disagreeing amongst themselves, it may just leave us in peace.
They should look.
We will not have this kind of nonsense we've been having in churches, at funerals. There'll be nothing to come and talk about, okay? So we'll be left in peace. We'll now be able to do our thing.
Do you think they'll then do their job?
Do
you think they would then do their job?
Our thing.
As long as there's a
they're never going to do their job anyway, so just accept.
That they're just going to be sitting and having one tea party the whole time?
Even when they're in opposition, they're not doing their job.
I think
so
as
let's
long
just
as...
accept. Let's have less noise. You have all the goats bleating all out there, and you put them in one pen and lock it. Let them make the noise out there. It allows you now to go to the farm without wondering, mbuzi zimetoroka, have they gone to the neighbor's farm? You know where they are. It's a good thing.
No, as long as
Kenyans, we look at this and say, this is, they were going to make noise anyway. They were going to walk around anyway, trying to jostle for power, for relevance. Now, all of them are wearing the same T-shirt. We can identify them from a mile away. So here, can we now focus? Biashara, wake up in the morning, go fend for your family, go back home in the evening, give them what you need to give them.
But this is nice because it's all so presumptuous of these leaders and these politicians, isn't it? As they're forming these alliances and forming these parties and those who are coming to beg and say, let's talk. It's all on the presumption that Kenyans are going to come and vote and put them back. Do you realize that?
Of course.
That they know, in fact, the interests or the input that Kenyans have in all of this is least on their agenda. They're forming their own coalitions, and in this point, it's that Kenyans with their vote will fall in line, not the other way around.
Yes.
Not that Kenyans will come and vote and you say that
politicians
and leaders come and do what they're supposed to do. No. Kenyans are the last peg in all of this. They have a
guarantee that, you know what, we come together, let's eat. All right, let's stop fighting. Let's stop fighting.
Will vote us
just
in.
come.
Let's do our thing.
Let's eat. Let's demand that Kenyans give us more. We eat. We all united eat together. All right, wachani kelele. We're here. Let's eat. And Kenyans will be like, yay!
Vote.
But there's peace now.
But I don't think they won't keep quiet as long as there's Jubilee in opposition and they're not crushed and decimated and finished. There'll still be noise because they'll need to start mudslinging and throwing stones at the other side and making them look bad. So if the Jubilee in opposition side keeps quiet and doesn't give any rebuttal, then we may have some peace because you can only talk so much or so long at yourself.
As Nzawe Musau has written there and is already indicating, by the end of this process, the noisemakers will have reduced as well. So if you have a bunch of 5 making noise, wacha wajibambe.
But I'm sure they're not going anywhere.
Piga kelele.
All these talk people are jumping about, shouting the last 2 days. How can Nobody's going anywhere. You make the move to leave now, my friend. That's
can't.
like cutting off your own head. Nobody will go anywhere. Realignments will happen.
Yeah, they'll
but
turn
there's
back.
all
They'll be
staying
singing
in the house.
They'll sing this tune.
In the house.
Yeah.
In all of this, I see Kenyans have just been fattened for the slaughter because it's just BBI, not governance.
This is about BBI.
Yeah.
It's what the conversation about BBI, remember, was how can we have fully representative government having everybody at the top. Now we have it, even without BBI.
We are just
28 minutes to 8 o'clock. Let's take a look at traffic. And then we talk about the hospitality industry. Good morning.
Okay, so this bus that is toppled over in the middle of the CBD is causing some palaver, unfortunately, and getting into the CBD is going to be quite the headache because it has affected traffic then going towards Moy Avenue, coming from the fire station. There's a mess there because of this accident. So hopefully that will be removed and worked on from now. Yeah, like I told you, as far as Moy Avenue on the lower side towards railways has been affected already. So if you're trying to get into the CBD, it's because there's an accident. You know how they say when you stump your toe, the whole of your body hurts? That's what's going on right now. Okay, so there's a little bit of traffic on Mombasa Road. It's not going to be too bad then getting off in a short while. We're going to look at the highways that are being sorted out. We'll take a look now at the Maimahu Narok bridge that was being worked on and should have been completed by now. We'll give you some information about that because we know it's getting to the weekend and people do a little more traveling than they do during the week. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. We'll give you more information as we get it.
In the situation of this morning, Eric Latif Nduoko, Dr. Mercy Korir. Now, we've been talking about the effects of COVID-19 on the economy, right? And also, we've seen the government trying to release some of the restrictions that are put in place, asking, for example, the restaurant businesses to reopen, but with some conditions. And some of those conditions include that you have to take all your staff for COVID-19 tests, then they get certified as COVID-19 negative, and then you open your restaurant. But also you must observe this physical distancing within the restaurant. So a restaurant, if a table was for 4 people, now you've got to make sure that there's 1 meter distance all round per person seated in the restaurant. What does that mean? That means that you basically reduce your sitting capacity.
Why does stay at home?
So you have just maybe 1 waiter, or just continue operating the way they've been operating, which is a takeaway business. And how is a takeaway business doing also? I think we need to find out. Maybe we are just assuming that takeaway business, people have been taking away where? People are at home. Going online. Have they really gone online? Is it working? Is it not? But then also, now that we're in the COVID era, so the post-COVID era, what's going to happen to the hospitality industry? Will you just walk into a hotel and book a room and enter the room and you see a bed has been made and you're like, good.
Nice.
If
Or
there
do you want
will
some
be a
guarantees?
post-COVID era.
If there will be a no, this big one, this deep one. We'll live with COVID, yes.
Dr. Mercy is trying to tell you that we are here.
Yeah.
We're here.
We're already in the
We're
post-COVID
here.
era.
Yeah, I was seeing in the West, I think it was in Europe, where the hotel has, there's a hotel that decided to put up mannequins and dress them up so that, because now you have to have a 1 meter distance, so that people don't feel like there are no other people in the restaurant, because you can imagine you've reduced your capacity by half. So they've put up mannequin, well dressed, having dinner in the tables.
So you come and sit here, and then
But that's the thing.
you have mannequins around you.
With restaurants,
You can have a conversation with them.
Well, okay, and then you would be certified as a bit crazy, but all right. The thing is that with restaurants, it's social gathering. That's the connotation that comes with it.
Yeah.
It's that people come together to then go into an establishment like this to not just enjoy the food, but then to enjoy company.
Yeah.
So then now when you take away that element from it with this whole social distancing, it then defeats the purpose of going into a restaurant for social gathering. Now, looking at the comparisons between how people then gather within restaurants and what they do it for, very few people go to sit alone and eat at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Most people who sit alone want to do something really quickly and then they leave. But the majority of people who attend these establishments do it for the food and the company.
Yeah.
So then having one person sit 3 meters apart or whatever from the other, and then it just defeats the purpose of having gone to a restaurant.
Because for a restaurant, basically, book the entire restaurant, so all of you are sitting there. You're all across each other, so you can shout at each other, but it's only you people
who will be there. It's only your party that will.
So you can have your conversation. Otherwise, if you're having a conversation across table and the next table people are having their own conversation, it just becomes a shouting match. It just becomes a shouting match.
Yeah.
Let's speak to a hotelier, and this is the general manager of the Villa Rosa Kempinski and the Olare Mara Kempinski. His name is Roberto Simone. Good morning, Roberto.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Welcome to the Situation Room, and thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
You've heard what we are talking about in our intro, the kind of challenges that you would have, even presently, with opening up restaurants.
Yeah, there are many challenges. Let's say the first one is, of course, to comply with the protocol, which is not only Kenyan protocol, but will be worldwide more and more very, let's say, important for the customer. The second one, as you said, the number of people you can accommodate, which of course for us is not an issue because we have a lot of space, but there will be many places they have to reduce of half the capacity. This will make non-feasible the business venture. The third one is the level of atmosphere, gathering mood you get with a half-empty restaurant.
Yeah.
But of course, this is at the immediate effect, let's say.
Now, if we look at the restaurants that you have at Villa Rosa Kempinski, pick one. Just give us one of the restaurants that you have.
Example, Luca is one of the one we open as the first. We will open as the first. We are working already to comply with the government regulations. It has enough space to maintain, let's say, the mood and the feeling, because we have a 2 terrace plus an internal space. Plus, we have another 2 restaurants above. Plus, we have a lobby. We have the K lounge. As a Kempinski, we are very lucky. Let's say we have a generosity in the spaces to accommodate people. You say maintain the physical distancing. Let's say we are not concerned on that side. We are more concerned how will be the consumer behavior in the immediate time, mid-term, and long term. That is the key point.
But also looking at that business, so let's say if you're talking about the Luca and you're opening it up, you have space, yes, but the number of tables that you had set up initially has drastically reduced. Does it make sense to operate that restaurant?
Absolutely. In our review, first of all, we have an hotel to run, which is, of course, very successful. In that specific case, we can integrate the Luca business venture with the home delivery experience, which is not only takeaway. We are developing a project where practically we will bring a Luca experience at home if you want. It's not only to deliver to you the pizza or the lasagna, but if you want, we can build a party to your home. So there will be part of our venture will be focused on your home delivery example. You can integrate your business. You have to be creative. You cannot step back just because in this moment we have these difficulties.
Yeah.
Okay. Roberto, looking at the part of the restaurant business is, or rather the hotel business, is holding meetings, workshops and things like that. How is this going to change? How are you planning to still have these, still maintain physical distance, still serve guests? Because most of these meetings, workshops and the like do buffet. How is the business going to adapt and change so that we keep to all these measures that we are required to keep?
Okay, the first things, the buffet in the immediately are not feasible anymore as used to be. Of course, we have to change the food offer as to be most likely seated dinner or seated lunch with some made solution in the middle of the table. And yesterday we were discussing with my team how we will solve the problem of the spoon, no? The spoon in the middle of the table. So we have to find those kind of, let's say, we have to adapt to the business. Thanks God we have our Kempinski, let's say, corporate office, which is coming up with a new project, a new way to deliver the service. The number of meetings will be, of course, less and smaller. Because, of course, the gathering at the beginning will not be very popular, of course, because even though you want to launch a conference with 300 people, doesn't matter if it's allowed or not, the consumer behavior in the immediate time, in the next 6 months, 12 months, will be do not attend the meeting, will be more a virtual meeting than a physical meeting, okay? So we will have a very small meetings, right? You have to be, we have to adapt our business model to these new demands.
And what does adapting mean for the business? I'm looking at, if you look at one of your conference rooms, say a room that you initially could say would hold 200 people in theater style, now would have to hold a quarter of that, but you still have the same space, the same room, you still have the same bills to pay. So what does that mean? Am I going to pay more to host a meeting at your hotel?
No. First of all, you have to obey what is something which is a market demand. You know, you have to be competitive in terms of price and the value you deliver. If the meeting room is 200 people, like in our case, we are lucky because we can divide the room in 3, 4, 5 different smaller rooms, of course. And in a way, you keep a competitive your positioning. The problem is, in this moment, all of us, we have 2 immediate issues. Number one, to keep floating the business entity, which means to protect the cash flow and protect employment. And the second major issue is, in the long term, how we will going to position and operate this business model in the future. And this is still an unknown factor for everyone in the world, because the immediate behavior of the consumers will be COVID compliance, how good is in this place. When the vaccine will be found, the consumer will change so much the behavior that will be a different level of consumer. So as this COVID, which is an unprecedented event, is really disruptive, is changing the consumer behavior of the entire generation of millennials, a general set consumer. Those behavior will be there for the next 10 years. Today, of course, hand sanitizer will be the must. Maybe in 5 years will be less, but still will be there. So we have to change let's say, we call the guest flow. Is totally different. How we approach how the customer arrive at the restaurant, what he has to do, how we will welcome, what the waiter has to say, what that the first thing. Most likely, will not present the menu as the first things to do, but will sanitize the hand of the customer. So those are the things the customer expects from us, to be attentive to protect them, and then will come the product delivery. They will change completely the entire business proposal.
Roberto, I want to look at, because a lot of times you use examples of what have happened in other countries, then to say maybe that's how we should deal, or at least it help us to learn. Now, if you look at some countries, I want to look at Germany, for example, who then opened up. And people, they said, okay, children go back to school, at least let's start phasing this in, restaurants open. And then we saw triple of the cases 6 days, 1 week after. Do we lie here in Kenya in any danger of that from your perspective? If we open this up now and allow patrons to come back into restaurants, for example, do you see any danger in the rise of infections?
I'm not a scientist, not a virologist. There are enough out there, okay? There are many, in this moment, there are many theories. The theory to pursue the herd immunity, like in Sweden, example, like in Germany now, or the one to keep the lockdown to let the curve flat down, which is not flattening down, because it's flattening down, but keep consistent the number of contagious. This is a very high-speed virus, let's say, and this is what is making really dangerous of the virus. What we have to wait with the vaccine. When the vaccine will come on board, will come in the world, of course, things will change. But until that time, I'm sure they will deliver some therapy to, let's say, treat the virus like a very strong flu in a certain way. The hotel, what they will need to do, the hotel and the restaurant, to adapt them to keep the physical distancing, the hand sanitizer, all these things. Of course, there are risks there if you do like in Germany. By example, on the 18th of this month, Italy, where I come from, they will open all the cafe restaurants in Italy. Now, if somebody has visited Italy, like France, they are the cafe where the physical distancing is 30 centimeters. Those kind of places will open, and we will have in 20 square meters, 30 people eating, taking coffee, cappuccino, or slice of pizza. How this will happen? In Europe, there are two different common thinking. The one which is stay home, and the one says, let's live continue, because we cannot block the economy. We are running risk, this is for sure. But if we put in place physical distancing and all the supervised sanitizing, and as well the testing of the staff, this will risk, of course.
Okay, Roberto, what say you of the government measures for your kind of business to open up, the testing which you're supposed to foot, all these measures, looking at your kind of business, even to the small scale, do you think this is encouraging, or do you think it's punitive? What do you have to say about all this?
Every regulation is an hurdle, is a challenge in the customer, willingness to buy service or goods. It happened in 2001, after 11 September, when I was in the United States at the time. We thought the world was at the end. And then at the airport started the control, your check-in takes 3 hours before. We said no one will travel. And the people continue to travel. Now it's much more critical because it's a worldwide affair. It's worldwide issues. The world will adapt. There will be a process will be online, virtually. There will be a process which will require physical presence. Of course, we see all these regulation as additional cost, additional efforts, additional problems. But it's the only way to go. How we can address one day for sure, and if you want to have as a supplier or client and a European company, we have to provide all the COVID protocol in place. We have already. McKinsey is coming to visit us because Kempinski just launched white gloves protocol, which is a COVID protocol in a luxury way, which embrace not only the restaurant but the housekeeping, all the about the hotel. And the McKinsey, which is one of our global, clients, is visiting most of the Kempinski to see at which stage is the protocol. It's a new way to go. So we have to do it.
So with this additional cost, trying to adapt, trying to stay afloat, how are you able to manage? And one of the things you said in this interview is like you're trying to manage your cash flows. What are these measures or tricks, if I may call them, that you're using to survive that possibly other people could borrow from you?
Well, we try to see across the various processes and our operational process to see how some process can be, merged and bring saving, and this saving use it to implement the new regulation. But let's demystify a fact. This cost is the sanitizer, the liquid, the detergent, the physical distancing, which is reducing your seating capacity, and the training for your team. Are not impossible costs, let's be clear. Our costs can be managed. We had other implementation which are more costly. Example, the HACCP standard or the ISO certification is by far more costly than the COVID implementation, as it is now. As it is now. The most heavy cost is the testing of the staff every 15 days. But with the new communication, where the test will cost 1,000 per person, every employee costs you 2,000 shilling per month, is $20. You have to imagine that normally every day, each of our associates on shift is going through 15 minutes briefing. Okay, that 15 minutes are paid briefing without working. Imagine how big is this cost if you multiply for all my 400 associates for 365 days a year. It's by far much higher than the COVID testing.
Than the COVID testing.
Of course, if we pay the COVID testing 10,000 shilling per person every 15 days, that is the cost. But as it is announced at 1,000 shilling, is a kind of cost you can manage within your business cash flow, of course.
And is government supporting the hospitality industry, the hotel business in any way? Because if you ask me, government, because it's in the interest of government that everyone is in business, they should have then foot this 1,000 shillings or $10, $20 a month cost. Is government supporting you in any way to make sure you are back in business as soon as possible, because the economy depends on you?
Well, they are facilitating us in a certain way. First of all, they are communicating constantly with us, keeping us updated, giving all the latest information. Now we implement the protocol, what kind of elements have been the protocol. They ask us to bring our objection and suggestion, of course. And in terms of the COVID testing, they made it feasible to become at the cost of 1,000, while on the market, if you go any authorized center, you don't pay less than 6,000 or 8,000. So this is a huge help, of course. They are trying to push and to help us to open as soon as possible, because they understand that tourism for Kenya is not all important for the weight they have within the GDP. But imagine every international customer coming in Kenya for tourism, at the end they bring back impression about Kenya. Tourism is the real ambassador for Kenya as a brand. If the tourism goes well, this facilitates any other business, any other foreign direct investment, because it shows Kenya this is easy place to make a business. People are really lovely, country is beautiful. And let me add something else. I'm working in 6-7 countries in Africa. The best hotel service in Africa is in Kenya. And the really risk we have, we don't make the hospitality really react to these events, is to lose a lot of people and lose a part of the hospitality IP in Kenya.
Yeah.
If today you go in Dubai, you find so many Kenyan in a key position in the hotels. It was not used like this 10 years ago. And why the reason that Kenya succeed in UAE, Dubai, which is one of the major tourist hubs? Because Kenya, they have God gave the natural spirit, the natural smile, and most important, one of the most educated people in Africa. Speak very good English, and of course they succeed. So if you are not fast and very effective in protecting the hospitality as a sector, we will lose people moving in, let's say, in farming or in other sectors. This is called a deindustrialization, let's say, process, which at the end up in the losses of the IP.
Are you comfortable with what government is doing, or do you think they can do better to support you?
In Italy, we complain about the government every morning.
So do we.
Monday morning, 55 million Italians talk about football. They are all football team, football coach. Tuesday, 55 million Italian prime minister. Okay, everyone complain about the government. Every government does according to its capabilities. What I can say, they've been fast. The Minister of Tourism has been very reactive. He's communicating with us constantly. And Kenya deal with budget, like every country. And thanks God, this IMF contribution will help the Kenya to support this moment. Everyone would like to be like a Germany, which put out let's say an unparalleled package to help the economies. Imagine Germany alone put in the economy almost how much put the European Central Bank for the entire Union.
Yep.
But we are talking about the most maybe rich country in the world. There are different things. Kenya does what can do according to the budget, according its capabilities. But they have been fast. We cannot say nothing.
Let's start projecting, Roberto. Sorry, let's start projecting now and see at the Villa Rosa Kempinski, or the hotels within Nairobi. How soon do you see reopening of the proper hotel business? And then you also run a safari business in the Mara. How soon do you see the Mara hotels opening?
Okay, Villa Rosa, we will be, the team is there working for the implementation of all the protocol. As soon we already apply to get inspected. When we are ready, we open. We don't open before, then we are sure that all the various provisions mentioned in the protocol are not satisfied. We will not open before. We will open when we are ready. I think within May, we will do it. For Olarimar, it's different. Olarimar implementation are not complicated because the physical distancing there is okay. It's only 12 tents. There's enough space to do anything. The problem is the marketability of the products.
Yep.
Because 90% depends on international market. No matter when Kenya opened the border, but the problem is when the European Union opened the border, when the American opened the border, and when the Middle East opened the border, which are the three major market feeders. So I see Olarimara back in the business, let's say, being optimistic, not before, we hope for July, August, but I think we'll take a bit more.
I think realistically, even looking at how soon are people going to be ready to take a holiday and to afford a holiday?
European border, intra-European community will open soon because, of course, there is a European Schengen treaty.
Yeah.
Open the border with the flights going out from Europe and vice versa to exotic destination, I think will happen not anytime soon. It will take some months, Now, among the consumer behavior, there will be some traveler which is very cautious in Europe. There will some traveler who will not care. For example, Italians are very adventurous, Germans are very adventurous, Russians are very adventurous. But there are other kind of consumers which are much more careful. For example, American, they will want to be sure about the health and safety before to move, for example. There's a different approach now.
So, Roberto, you hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. So this twice a month testing, should one of your employees test positive, what are your contingency measures? What happens?
Well, we follow the government protocol. We advise the authority, and we will comply with the quarantine protocol and everything. But if we test before, let's say, this will reduce the risk,
Roberto Simoni, the General Manager of Villa Rosa Kempinski and also the Olarimara in the Masai Mara. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much, Eric. Have a great day.
Thank you, and have a great day as well. And all the best to your staff as you prepare to reopen whenever you reopen. We wish you all the best. Thank
you very much, Eric. See you.
Thank you.
The hotel industry is actually, the hospitality industry. As you can see, he's sounding very optimistic. That's the nature of the hospitality people.
must be optimistic.
You must start from that point.
It's upon that you will survive, really.
An optimistic side.
And I think, but you see, in the hospitality industry, you're looking at these high end like Villa Rosa and all the way to your Kibandaski.
Yep.
So,
all of them.
So if you look at it, they can manage the 1,000 shilling testing and keep putting in all those measures, the additional costs he's talking about. But will your Kibandaski survive this?
Yeah, so that's a question that you can ask. But they should. You're in business pay, man. I know we always sit on opposing sides on this one. We will look at that actually when you come out of this, break. So we are going to the top of the hour. Just remind you, today's proverb: send your child where he wants to go, and you will see his pace. Send your child where he wants to go, and you will see his pace. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it right here, because from 8:30, we'll be speaking to this Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury, Ambassador Ukur Yatani. Very many questions. Any question that you'd like to ask him, Spice FM KE, Facebook and Twitter, please post your questions there. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
All right, traffic seems to be opening up, not doing so badly on many of the roads this morning, looking a little bit better. We still have the issue in the middle of the CBD, so that's affecting traffic as you're trying to get in. Coming off of Thika Road and then into the Globe Cinema roundabout, definitely that traffic is being affected, and so we have a long snake of traffic on that road right now. Coming off off Mombasa Road, not so bad. It's snaking along slowly. You'll get to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout not having waited too long. So around the city, it's looking good. And of course, we have lessened traffic in Mombasa, Kisumu. It's not too bad this morning. You'll be able to get where you're going in good time. Don't forget, you can get to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter, and we'll be able to get you through.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher,
2 minutes
academic,
after 8.
seasoned
This is the
political...
Situation Room. It's also Kenya's biggest conversation. We are broadcasting in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi. We're also worldwide via our digital platforms, Spice FM KE on Facebook. We live stream as well on Spice FM KE, YouTube and Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. Joining us this week and last week and probably next week in this room is Dr. Mercy Korir. C.T. Muga is away for a while.
Mm-hmm. So the hospitality industry, so the mannequins I was telling you about, so mannequins dressed in fine 1940s style attire were already theatrically staged Thursday at the Inn at Little Washington, tucked in the foothills of Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains, about 90 minutes west of Washington, D.C. So the chef and proprietor, Patrick O'Connell, said, when we needed to solve the problem of social distancing and reducing our restaurant's occupancy by half, the solution seemed obvious. Fill it with interestingly dressed dummies. This would allow plenty of space between real guests and elicit a few smiles and provide some fun photo ops.
It's creative.
Yep.
It is creative. And I think it's a good one. It's a creative way of doing it. There are those other hotels and restaurants that have set up some structures. So you sit like you're in a small cubicle by yourselves. So looking at a table of 4 and how they've set it up, or table 4-2 and how they've set it up, but you're by yourselves and you're shielded from the people in the next table, which helps to actually also kill the distance between your back and the next person's back.
True.
It doesn't have to be a whole meter if you just put a barrier.
A barrier, But now what I was struggling with is if you've gone on a date with your wife, your girlfriend, whoever, you've probably come from the same house. Do you still need to have a barrier?
Yes.
It defeats the purpose. Then this is what I'm saying. It defeats the purpose of have you having gone out for any kind of social engagement.
But because the barrier is just a meter apart.
Why then?
No,
it's a table.
You have a shield.
It's a table.
But you live in the same house.
They're not talking about a shield in between the table.
No, there's some that have actually put a shield.
Well, for people who don't
and
know
you're
one
still
another.
required to have a mask. So the other question was, how are you going to eat and you with a mask on?
Yeah, that's a restaurant that's basically not thinking about, maybe that's a fast food.
Yeah. So I think we're going to see some interesting things and changes with the restaurants. But my favorite has been these mannequins because they actually look real. They're beautiful, beautifully dressed. Because they're saying the purpose of a restaurant, and as you said, is the social gathering. You want to see life, you want to see people. So that illusion there are people, give you some...
Makes you feel especially for those who live alone, right? And you've been on lockdown. You've been alone in the house, you're on lockdown, and you just want to feel the presence of other people. So go to a restaurant. There'll be other people in the restaurant, but also you're also looking at some semblance of humanity.
The joke with that one was that you're alone, but a mannequin has a date.
Yes.
Oh gosh, it wouldn't make you feel very good about yourself now, would it? As an individual,
you may not want to go out where there are mannequins if you're alone. You may want to look for an actual date. But interesting times for the hospitality industry.
Something interesting that Roberto Simone has mentioned there. We're talking about how the restaurant business is adapting to the times. Very many of them have gone into home deliveries, right? So you can order, then they'll deliver the food to you, either using their own logistics or using those logistics companies like the Glovos and the rest. And then, like what you were saying, they can come and do an entire experiential. So instead of you thinking of how to take your family out to dinner, you think of bringing dinner to them. Bring a whole experience of a restaurant to your home. These guys from the Luca restaurant come, they set up, they serve you at home, they do the entire setup in your house, and you feel like, you guys, we're out. We went out. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, it is.
For those who can afford, those, if you just think about, even the small restaurants, if you think about just creating a dish, and this is from your menu, and people loved coming to your restaurant for this particular menu, and now you're just saying, we can come and activate in your home.
I think
interesting times.
Yeah, COVID is really, as you said, bringing out the best and the worst in us, and I think we are going to see the best, especially hospitality industry, the airline industry, because these are industries that rely on people, they rely on interaction.
Yeah.
You can't do away with people there. You can't say you're working from home and you're supposed to serve. So I think we are bound to see some very interesting changes that might be fun at the end of the day.
Now, the issue of the 1,000 bob. What do you think, Ndu? Be the tiebreaker. So, okay, big restaurants, Villa Rosa, Kempinski, and the others, all right? And they're saying, if we look at the general costs, in terms of all the other costs that we go through, this is one of the smallest costs. We can bear these costs, all right?
To get folks tested.
Yeah. But your local Kibandansky, the one right out there, and where you go and, they've set up, they only get a kanjo license. Some of them don't even have a kanjo license. You sit on a bench, they serve you chapati madondo. And now you're telling them, get a COVID certificate.
Even for 1,000 bob.
For 1,000 shillings.
It's not going to happen.
All right.
It's not going to happen.
Some of these folks are making 1,000 shillings a day at best.
But remember, these people as well, because of the nature of how they're doing it, they can conduct a takeaway business. If it's a Kibandansky on the way, on a road reserve.
But the takeaway business has been suffering, because talking to my colleagues or some friends with Kibandaskis, if you compare the customers you had, the sit-in customers, and the takeaway business really hasn't caught up well with Kibandaski, because there's something about a Kibanda.
Who were they serving? People who are working, right?
Yeah, the people who work around that
there.
general area, or people who live around that there. General area.
So let's talk about the people who work, because people who live can take food and take home. The people who are, for example, people who are working around here along Mombasa Road, and there's a kibanda down the road. Lunchtime, step out, go to lunch, go for lunch there, sit, eat, go back. First of all, because of the stay-at-home restrictions, the numbers have already reduced. So already there is that suffering. So is it also possible that people can go and you can serve them in takeaway packages? So you can just go and order and you go and eat at your workplace. Reduce the number of people who are sitting there, because anyway, even if you give it to them for free, the capacity that you're talking about, a small kibanda that was doing 20 people, you're telling them you can only have 4 people sitting in there. It don't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I don't know. They'll have to rethink the business. But as I was saying, there's something about, kibanda is proper communal.
The vibrancy.
Yes, there's life. You can see your food coming to you.
Wash your hand out there. Take like a soap.
This is what I'm saying.
It's
more than just the nutrition aspect of it. It's an experience for a lot of people.
We are living in different times.
This is the thing. It's an experience, whether it's a 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute, it's an experience that people want to go. And because you could easily, why was that nurtured? It's like the Buka experience in Nigeria. People who are working in a bank, working wherever, they want to go outside and eat. They're not even looking at surroundings as to how sanitized they are, but it's the experience that you go for, right? So now times have dictated change. And it has been said that, okay, we can't do this anymore. And I think that's what we're going to see. That a lot of things that people have been used to in the way in which they operate will change. It's either that or we shut down. And the question is, are we going to be able to beat that 1,000 shillings? The thing is, no. There are a lot of people who will not be able to pay, and by virtue of that, will not operate. Because according to a government directive, and to me, it doesn't sound like something that they're going to say pay 1,000 shillings for the next 6 months, and then after that, we will review.
It's every 15 days.
Every 15 days.
So it's either you do that or you shut down.
You're approaching a business. We are basically telling you now, you'll pay. Let's say you have a staff of 5. You're paying 5,000 bob
every 15 days. Right.
That's
I'm telling you, some
shillings.
of these people do not have that 5,000 shillings in a month.
Because that's they live from hand to mouth.
They pay the staff.
No.
They
Listen,
pay the staff.
Listen,
and the profit could be
Kibandanskis are not hand to mouth.
the
It
profit
is.
that they
The
receive.
people
in a
who
month.
work there we could be talking about hand to mouth. The people who are running that business are running a profitable business. Otherwise, they would not be in business.
let me
As
give you
long
an
as you're
example
running a
of how-
profitable
No.
business, let's not
Eric,
call you hand to mouth.
Your average Kibandaski will make money at the end of the day. You'll pay your staff, if let's say you're paying them at the end of the day, you pay them what you need to pay them.
Yep.
And then whatever money remains, you budget to buy your supplies for the next day.
Yep.
Because you're not storing anything.
Yep.
So somebody has to go to the market
But
the
not
next
everything.
day.
You're making a profit.
A little bit of profit.
You're-
So the
you are
little
making-
that you're
little
making.
what you're making a profit.
I remember, Eric, times have changed. You're not making as much money as it was before. You've rightly said people are working from home.
Yep,
People are not coming from for takeaway. So the little money that you have, do you want to spend it in paying government to do testing?
An extra levy.
Or
That's what it is.
Or do you want government to, support you? Because at the end of the day, it's a win-win.
Okay.
The government stands to win more than you as the Kibanda owner is bound to win.
I have a solution for these guys. Now that the government is rolling out mass testing, right? How about you encourage your staff to go for that mass testing? That's free. Now, the only issue is, are those people who are going for mass testing, for example, mass testing that's happening in Kawangware or in Isli or in Old Town in Mombasa, is somebody getting a certificate to show that they've been tested?
No, that's the thing. The
That's the
certificate
thing.
then comes for businesses under operation to
Because
show that
if-
you've
if-
gone through a process and then you get the certificates, a license then to operate, as it were.
If as an individual, you could send all your staff to these free mass testing places and they come with that certification, then you've cut down that.
Yeah, if you
But
could.
there's-
But unfortunately,
there's
you're not
no
regarded as an
certificates.
individual. You're regarded as a business. Unfortunately, in this case, that's where the certification comes from.
Okay.
This is the problem. You can't. It would be great if that could be considered, and maybe it's something that needs to be floated. It would be fantastic if that could be considered. But in this case, like you said, it's another opportunity for levy.
Okay. If you look at it from that point, then the Italy's that we're talking about are the small scale ones, right? The big ones, how then do you distinguish between one and the other? So let's make them free of charge. Go get tested every 15 days for free. It helps us to know our numbers as well.
Yeah, it does. Because if you look at it on the grand scheme of things, you want to identify as many people as possible. You want to pick them out early so that you're able to isolate, you're able to quarantine, you're able to know what you need to. So the same thing we're saying with quarantine and isolation. As long as you want people to pay for their own quarantine and isolation, people are not going to volunteer. Now, we wouldn't even be having this discussion if government would have said, you know what, we will do for you the testing. People would be willing to go and do it. But here, now people are struggling. Do I pay for the testing? Do I still keep takeaway? People are still, thinking about it. Here, government has to meet us halfway. If we want to properly live with this COVID-19. When things stabilize and things are easy, then we can talk about charging people. And remember, Eric, Ndu, some of these diagnostic kits have been donated to us for free.
But we are buying the reagents and we are making money out of that.
We have taken a loan to do that.
Yeah, but we're buying.
We have taken a loan to buy that. That loan, we are paying for it through our taxes. You pay as you earn. You other funny charges that you pay everywhere across this country.
You've been very
So
consistent on
let's-
this. I think
of course.
what your point is from the beginning to the end, Dr. Mercy Korir, is that all tests should be free
Yes.
at government facilities.
Anything relating...
Regardless of who you are.
Don't say
Truck
regardless.
driver.
Gosh.
No, okay.
Hey,
It's
regardless.
of who you are. Whether you're a truck driver operating across the border,
Yes.
or whether you're a waiter working at a restaurant, whether you are a broadcaster working in a media house, walk in,
Whether you're
walk
a
out,
police
free.
officer.
Police officer, medic.
Let me
Anybody.
summarize it very well for the avoidance of doubt. Anything and everything related to COVID, to the coronavirus response, should be free of charge for Mwananchi, because we are looking at the greater good at the end of the day. If there is no cost implication to Mwananchi, people are likely to cooperate better. People are likely to follow everything better if it is not punitive. And at the end of the day, we'll be able to know where we stand, what we are doing on the coronavirus, and we'll be able to make better decisions, either to de-escalate or whether to escalate. So if you look at it now, we are de-escalating some of our measures, but do we really know the true extent of these diseases in the country?
True. You make a point.
And if we're looking at COVID that is going to be here with us, I mean, like we said, if it's endemic, it's something that we expect to be around. Then we're probably looking at a new way of doing business across board. We're looking at a new way of doing business, even in eateries, for example, and saying that people will have to be...
Say it again.
Say it again.
Eateries. Eateries.
You're shrubbing. Just say Italy's. That's the right way.
Staying further away from each other, even when they eat, even when, other things that they do. So are we looking at a new way, a new world order when it comes to so many things that we're used to in one way? The way in which we operated has already changed to a certain extent. Are we looking some kind of permanency that's going to then be applied to this? And I think we are. And it's going to be it has to be a mind shift, a mind change that's saying, okay, you're going to have to think twice before you actually go sit in a restaurant and have a meal with someone. And the takeaway option would be your first option, and then maybe go sit at home and watch a movie or something. And that's on the other side of it. Now, for people who are having a quick lunch on the go, or going back to work, or the construction workers that we see who are sitting, at the
construction site.
At the construction site, sitting down,
and there's a
having
mama
something.
who's making food.
There's a mama who
There's somebody
comes
who's walking
yeah.
with food, and then they sit around a circle.
consider
They have
that
their thing and
takeaway.
they go.
Yeah, that's another form of takeaway,
That will change because it happens. In huge
And you
numbers.
don't expect that mama to go and test every 15 days.
No,
if it
you
is
don't.
a hassle to get tested.
She's getting 300 shillings every day.
Yeah, that
That's
not
not
gonna
going to
will not
happen.
work.
So we have to look at it holistically, not just looking at the big boys in the market. But as I say, all your policies, all your decisions should have your most vulnerable at the back of your mind.
In the front of your mind.
Oh, yeah.
In this case.
18
Those
minutes
should be
after
the
8.
priority.
Let's take a look at weather, and then let's talk about this mass testing, especially in Nairobi. Good morning.
Mostly cloudy conditions are going to prevail until the rain comes in later, with highs of 23, gearing up for a wet weekend. In Nyeri, it's light rain showers have already started. 17 degrees. We're likely to see these wet conditions throughout the weekend as well. Nakuru is sunny this morning, but that's going to change later. Highs of 25 when the rain comes in, and lows of 14. Eldoret is mostly sunny. At some point, will cloud over to showers with highs of 24 and lows of 13. Kisumu at 21 degrees this morning is partly cloudy. We'll see rains coming in later with highs of 28 and lows of 19. Mombasa partly cloudy this morning at 26 degrees. Highs of actually it has started the rain in Mombasa. And these light showers are going to get into heavier storms later with highs of 30 and lows of 25. A wet weekend was promised in Malindi as well. Partly cloudy conditions now, but we'll see the rain coming early enough with highs of 30 and lows of 26. Kampala weather looks partly cloudy this morning at 21 degrees. Thunderstorms have been forecasted for the afternoon with highs of 26 and lows of 21. We see Dar es Salaam at mostly cloudy conditions this morning at 27 degrees. Rain comes in later though with highs of 29 and lows of 22. Taking a look then into Joburg, it's mostly sunny at 7 degrees. We'll see highs of 19 and lows of 6 with clear skies all through. And finally for now in Lagos, it's light thunderstorms occurring throughout most parts of the state. Highs of 33 and lows of 26 with wet conditions well into the weekend.
That's 21 minutes after 8. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation in the room. Dr. Mercy Korir Nduoko, Eric Latif. We are talking about the health services in Nairobi, especially now when it comes to mass testing and this whole issue of certifying restaurants, right? Mm-hmm. And ensuring that the restaurants get their services. So let's talk to Nairobi. Okay.
Literally.
Yeah, we get the boss on the line. Dr. Ouma Oluga is a man who, last time he was here, he was representing the Union of Medical Practitioners and Dentists. Today, he's in government, smack right there in the middle. You're on the other side now, Dr. Ari.
Hi, I'm not on the other side.
You are.
No?
There are no two sides. It's just one country, one service for me.
One people, one Kenya.
You
have learned very fast. You have learned very fast to do the government speak.
You're already speaking like Gava.
No, I have never spoken. How does government speak?
Like the way you are speaking.
Dr. Ouma Oluga is now the Chief Officer for Health in the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. And congratulations on your appointment, Dr. Ari.
Thank you.
Now, you know what we are talking about. So first of all, let's start with the certification for health workers, not for health workers, for restaurant workers.
Yes.
How's this being done?
So, I think you all know that there was a directive that fast restaurants should be giving takeaway meals because we did not want congregations that would endanger or aid in transmission of COVID-19. And then with time also there were guidelines from the Ministry of Health that said that if the restaurant met certain criteria or certain rules that had been put, that they could actually reopen for partition. Part of those were that the food handlers should have COVID-19 tests and that they should be negative. So our workers, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services that are now performing the functions of health, is to assist the restaurants in terms of testing their food handlers, but also inspecting the premises to ensure that general hygiene, distancing, and all measures that are going to deter COVID spread are put in place. So what we have done so far is to work with the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health put up a committee to put a standard operating procedures, and we are part of that committee. And we have, together with the Ministry of Health, put guidelines for restaurants. And we have gone further. We have gone further at Nairobi Metropolitan Services to designate one facility, that is the Lady Northi, for testing of food handlers for COVID. The Ministry of Health, of course, is assisting us with the sample collection kits and the testing. But we have given the staff, and so the procedure is that the food handlers should go to the Lady Northi for sample collection, and then we will send those samples to the Ministry of Health laboratories, and the test should be negative before the restaurants are inspected, and then given permits. This communication was made by the Ministry of Health, and it will be made again by the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Tourism, and the Nairobi Metropolitan Service.
Okay. So when people are waiting for their results, they've gone to Lady Northi, obviously, they've had their sample and they have to wait, and we know it's taking about 24 hours. Where are these people in the meantime? Do they go back to their homes, or what happens?
Yes, they go back to their homes. You can only go and work in a restaurant once your test is negative, and beyond that test being negative, the restaurant must be inspected to make sure that the regulations that were put. You remember, they said for every 10 square meters, there should only be 4 seats. Yeah, so we must also inspect the premises to ensure that they are following those guidelines. In fact, the guidelines are so detailed that they have even gone to the extent of talking about the kind of masks people should be putting in the kitchen, the kind of mask food handlers should be putting, the issues of what we call basically hand washing, hygiene, and those kind of other public health measures. So it's actually a whole booklet, which we may not exhaust.
We are sure it's a booklet. I mean, we have seen in terms of COVID-19, books are out.
So what if the result is positive, Luga, and somebody has gone home?
What if out of 5 staff, 1 tests positive?
Yes.
What happens then?
These people are already part of a community somewhere, right? Yeah, some of them may be in the studio like you, right? So you're already in a community somewhere, and therefore there should be no cause for alarm. If someone is negative, then first there is the disclosures are made to them, and 2 is they are advised on self-isolation, and 3 are the contact tracing measures are instituted, which these are also in place by other teams.
No, but
I don't
actually,
think that anyone
my question is in relation to the restaurant itself.
Yes.
Because it sounded like one is a condition to the other. So after somebody has come and tested negative, that's the only time that the restaurant is going to be inspected, and that's the only time the restaurant will be allowed to operate. But this restaurant has more than 1 staff, and we are saying that at this particular point, one of the people that have come forth to Lady Northie for testing tests positive, but everybody else is negative. Are you going to do the inspection of the restaurant?
We are assuming that these people are not working together right now. Remember, the restaurants are not open. So these workers are not supposed to be together. So, and if they were together, then of course the other staff become part of the contact that we are tracing, and therefore that means that restaurant cannot open. But we are assuming that these people are not together, and we are assuming that
takeaways are happening. Restaurants are operating on takeaways, so they are bound to still be together at the moment.
And I have just given you the answer that if they were, in terms of the staff were already working together, then they become contact.
But if they were not, then the one person does not affect the restaurant from being inspected.
Yes.
And so, is there a certificate at the end of this? We've seen everyone else who's been tested for COVID has not really gotten any document to say you're either COVID-free or COVID positive. So what happens in this case?
People who have tested, who have been tested for COVID are getting certificates in their personal emails. And those who do not have emails are actually getting those results. The disclosure mechanisms have been put in place together with the confidentiality mechanisms. But of course, you know that COVID is an highly infectious disease where the Public Health Act was invoked. Yes. So, that also takes away a bit of the issues of privacy when it is in the best interest of the public.
So, I mean, if we're looking across board, Dr. Luga, at restaurants, for example, I think a lot of people's attention goes towards the high-end restaurants, but we have a lot of people who then visit lower-end restaurants. Majority of people, if we're just going to look at Nairobi, just as an example, using Nairobi, in the lower end, who then are asked for this certification every 2 weeks of their staff. Is it practical for them to present this, or are we just saying, in essence, remain closed?
It is practical in the sense that we want to keep the whole population safe. And it is practical that it is also the duty of government to protect every single vulnerable person. The people that we have put in the category of at most risk, the diabetic, the hypertensive, the people who have had problems, lung problems, people who have chronic conditions such as cancer. So the many of us that may not be symptomatic or may not have severe disease, it is also our responsibility to protect other people. I think we all know that these diseases that we talk about as chronic diseases, they are not death sentences. People live with them for 40 years, for 50 years, for a whole life. So it should not be that someone has really struggled to keep themselves controlled with diabetes or with hypertension, and then you expose them to COVID, and then they succumb because of that. So it is in the best interest of the country to make sure that these things are practical.
We'll call you again.
That is why. Yes.
We'll call you again and extend this conversation. Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning, Dr. Ouma Oluga, Chief Officer for Health, Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Have a good day, Dr.
You too.
Asante Oluga.
8:30. Let's take a look at traffic, and then shortly we'll speak to the CS for the National Treasury, Ambassador Okuriatani. Good morning.
Right, looking good in most parts of the city of Nairobi, and we just a point of information: the Mai Mahiu Narok Highway is still being worked on right now, so that is not ready for use as of yet. About 2 weeks late, because we were told about three days, but clearly that has not happened. We still have the issue in the middle of the CBD right now. That means that there's a bit of chaos there after that accident happened right on Ronald Gala. Hopefully that can be sorted out as soon as possible. Getting off of Mombasa Road, though, into the CBD, that looks all right. So around the city this Friday morning, traffic is not too terrible. Hope it stays that way. Don't forget you can get in touch about that on Spice FMKE. That's on Twitter.
27 minutes to 9. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room this morning, my name is Eric Latif. We have Dr. Mercy Korir Ndu Oko. And now joining us on the line is the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Planning, Ambassador Okuriatani. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Thank you very much for joining us and for speaking to us. And we also know that you have quite a bit on your plate, especially now, working on the next financial budget, trying to balance what you have right now, working towards funding COVID-19 activities, and also looking at all the other things that are happening in the country. You still have a government to run. You still have now the other emergencies that are coming up, like floods and the rest. Have a lot to work on and a lot to juggle with, Ambassador.
Sure.
Now, let's get straight into what we are seeing in terms of dealing with COVID-19 and the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that you went into the Parliament the other day and you got some supplementary budget, so you're able to redirect some sources, some funds into addressing COVID-19 pandemic. And there are also assistance that's coming from other development partners and financial institutions like the IMF. If we just were to ask, and directly, how much money is it that the National Treasury has allocated to the fight against COVID-19?
Thank you very much, and really I want to appreciate the opportunity that you have given to me today to discuss and engage on a number of things that are currently quite topical to the Kenya, particularly the state of the economy and how to fight COVID. We need to realize that, prior to COVID onset, we were working as Treasury, we were working on a fiscal consolidation plan to make sure that, we live within, the government lives within its means by reducing certain expenditures. At the same time, also growing our own source revenue with a view of trying to minimize on debt. That was our desire and that was our projection. Then all of a sudden, we were hit by this pandemic that has actually completely not only taken Kenya off the track, but also the global. What have we seen? There's been a very serious drastic reduction of trade. Tourism has actually gone down. Transport sector is affected. Agriculture, because of low global demand for agricultural export, has gone down. Manufacturing and construction has also gone down. The financial services, because of lack of remittances from the diaspora, has also gone down. Cost of things have actually gone down. This has now made us to go back to the drawing board.
Yep.
So what have we done? We came up with a measure that, we said, number one, we save jobs, cushion the vulnerable segment as a result of, the shock and the pandemic, and making sure that there is sustained liquidity into the economy. So those are the parameters that we are working on. It's on that basis that we went to the National Assembly with a supplementary tool, where we now came up with a host of measures, including, reduction of income tax. First, giving, anyone who earns 24,000 shillings and below are given 100% tax waiver. Number two, we also reduced all income tax from 30% to 25%. We reduced VAT from 16% to 14%. The net sum of all these will have foregone 172 billion Kenya shillings. We expect now the benefits of the VAT reduction and the benefits of the VAT, income tax on corporates, be passed to the consumers. So, meaning we have now more disposable income.
Yep.
We also put measures in place to settle most of the pending bills because they belong to the corporate, the private sector. The idea is just to enable the private sector to have that kind of liquidity, either, to continue engaging, sustaining their jobs, and even gets better, to expand their jobs. Additionally, also through central bank, we were able to reduce on the cash-based reserve and then the cash ratio reserve. The net sum of all these, that will be more money, will be the commercial bank for onward lending to the SMEs. So these are the areas that we are looking at. But we also realize that there are quite a number of Kenyans whose positions are quite precarious because they are not able to work. Exactly. And as a result of this, they needed more social support. That's why we came up with a top-up of additional 10 billion Kenya shilling, which is in addition to the 30 billion annually that we administer for the elderly, for the severely disabled, and orphans. So the enhancement of liquidity into the economy, in as much as also as a result of reduction of those taxes, and all those measures will support. So the net, our first initial investment was a cash of 44 billion Kenyan shilling, in addition to close to 172 billion that we are foregoing in form of taxes.
Yeah.
So those are things that we've undertaken. But now, additionally, we are also engaging a number of bilateral and multilateral partners to see if they can give us support to fight this pandemic. Some of the supports are mainly to the health sector. Like in the first 2-3 weeks, we were able to convince World Bank, and we got 6 billion Kenyan shillings for supporting the health sector. And that substantially, that has what has been supporting the ministry. The purchase and distribution of the PPEs, the face masks, and all those other interventions. Coming up is also the isolation ward and support also the county. So these are areas that we are looking at.
Ambassador, just to interrupt, has that money been disbursed yet from the World Bank? The 6 billion, is it available to the country?
It was disbursed many weeks ago.
Right, and so it's already been now put to use.
It's already put to use, but additionally, we are also getting support from a few other bilateral partners. But of importance, three days ago, we got $750 million, which is equivalent to about 78 billion Kenyan shillings from IMF. This is towards budget support.
Yep.
When we talk of budget support, it's activities that we are going to manage in delivery of services, but also cushion a number of, economic sectors.
Yeah.
So these are, we also waiting for additional support from World Bank. And through these, and based on also our own rationalization of budget, we are confident that we'll be able to, stand against this pandemic and, stabilize our economy. At the same time, also continue giving the much needed support to our health institutions and also other ministries to manage and to mitigate against the adverse effects of this disease.
Bonasias, allow me to take you back to the initial measures that were rolled out by the government. This is the payee, the income tax, the VAT, which many have said went to support the big businesses without any condition from the government that this must be passed on down to the economy or to their workers. Number two, when it was being discussed in Parliament, a number of MPs stood up and were wondering loudly, was it better to deny the government to collect the 172 billion shillings, or would it have been better to allow the government to collect the 172 billion shillings and then the government then disburses this money directly to the people as social support?
Let me tell you, it's just a matter of perspectives. Because, you know, the economy is such a complex way. You cannot address only one segment and expect results. What you do in one segment of the economy affects every other segment of the economy because they are interlinked. Foremost, let me tell you, the reduction of tax, of, the tax waiver on anyone who earns 24,000 shillings and below. The net sum of all this is the benefit does not go to that individual employee, but it goes to the economy because this person will have now more disposable income, will be buying, will be supporting the local economy, will be supporting those industries. The industries will be supporting the employees. Instead of them now, because there are more demand, they will not be now laying off people.
Okay.
So the low level staff that you are referring to, it's that such a complex situation, and everybody will have a test of those benefits.
Of the benefits.
The VAT fund, the tax reduction, because the flow of money now, assuming now you invest a certain amount of money within a small area or span of a rural economy, each of the households in a way is going to benefit from this through increased demand, provision of services, through participation of more or less in social services. Our intention and the reason as to actually why we went for this tax reduction is that we had series of engagement with the private sector. We also looked at we are not only looking at, short-term measure, but because now if we now close all those industries for the time being because of the challenge, now the revival steps, even the niche that will have had it in the region will have been lost.
Yeah.
So we sustain these industries for the time being. Whether they make substantial money or not, we sustain them. We also negotiate with them not to lay off people by giving additional benefits. There's also danger of just giving free things every other time because they are not sustainable.
Right.
So it's in that arrangement that we are able to look at all those complex arrangements and the benefits, a tax reduction benefit, will ultimately, not be short-term, but sustain the economy over a long period of time through, enabling the resilience of those in these industries, and so that people don't lose jobs. But then the other matter.
Right. I mean, if I can go on, you speak of sustainability, and even before COVID, we saw a situation whereby Kenya's debt burden was actually something that was really being considered across board. Are you not worried moving forward, even as you do present a budget in the next few weeks? Are you not worried about the burden that this pushes on Kenya's debt even further with the support that has been received?
Well, foremost, I think you also need to realize that we all live in this country, and we are fully aware of the circumstances that not only Kenya faces, but the entire world faces as a result of this shock. But as you said, I actually, in my opening remarks, I told you that the budget policy statement will be presented a few months to the National Assembly. Our theme was on fiscal consolidation process, by making sure that we become masters of our own destiny, by making sure that we grow our own revenue base, reduce on those expenditures that we can do without, so that we are going to have little to borrow. Not little to borrow, but also reduce on appetite for borrowing.
And from your perspective, what are those things that we can do without?
The meaning, like now, and of course, unfortunately, the problem has also brought other opportunities. Like
true.
now, all of us are using virtual meetings to attend conferences, to participate in a conference anywhere in the world.
Yes.
Do we need to send the kind of delegation that we've been sending to overseas?
No.
We can now take those things, from the comfort of our offices, participate in those meetings effectively. These are areas that we are looking at, expenditures that, we can forego by, not burdening wananchi, either through taxation or through borrowing. So a number of opportunities are also coming, and we're also trying to adjust. But we also need to realize that this is an extraordinary circumstance. Nobody planned for this kind of pandemic, not Kenya, not the world. But the shock is with us. How do we adapt, how we become resilient is very important.
Yeah.
But one of the very important things that, for Kenya is that Kenya is a very diverse economy. Unlike, like there are countries that depends almost close to 90% on tourism.
Yeah.
What happens now, tourism has crashed all over the world. They are going to have more severe impact. Like Kenya is quite diverse. No single, our agricultural sector is doing very well. We are lucky that God has blessed us with enough rain, actually slightly above normal rain. We might have had an initial challenge of, flood, but overall, we are going to grow enough food and, handle the issue of food security. And then we also have other things, like our ICT sector is also quite vibrant. Our financial sector is quite vibrant. We may have suffered a bit on manufacturing and maybe more severely on tourism. But the balance of all the mix is going to give us that kind of resilience that we require, unlike other economies that dependent on one or two sector, which now cannot cope. But overall, you also need to realize that the challenge we are facing is the challenge of the world. Tourism has gone down all over, transport sector has gone down, import has gone down, and now this also has given us a slight opportunity. Like now we are depending on industries for the production of the face masks, for the production of the PPEs. These are opportunities. And by all standards, our quality are very good. So our industries are also now trying to adopt to the current realities by now trying to focus within and getting their own inputs and also producing their own products and to be consumed by our own people.
Can I jump in here, Bonasias? Now that you're actually talking about, how our local industries are responding and adapting to the COVID challenges, you're also being accused at the National Treasury that no sooner had they actually risen up to the challenge than you came in and you slapped some taxes. Some of the taxes that were, those zero rating on medical supplies, now you've brought in some tax.
Let me tell you, from beginning, we are looking at not only one segment of the economy, but we are looking in the future. Kenyan tax expenditure. When I refer to tax expenditure, I refer to those tax incentives that include zero rating, that include, exemption and along other things. We spend about 6% of our GDP on those tax expenditures, while the global average is 2%. In 2018 alone, we forwent 535 billion in form of tax expenditures. This is not only sustainable because they have a negative effect of distorting the tax regime. Number two, we also realize that those benefits that we give to those particular industries, the benefits that are expected to be passed to the consumers are not passed as required. That quite a number of companies have been cheating. Therefore, they get huge profit as a result of the exemption. But the benefits are not passed over, to the intended consumer. So what we are now trying to do is that we are looking at trying to reduce on tax, areas that's going to affect everyone, including like income tax. A reduction of income tax will affect all of us, and we are going to get benefits, rather than only a very minor segment of the sector of the economy, where the benefits cannot be tracked. Even, the measures cannot be tracked. And a lot of this actually gets, more or less going to be a capital flight on our side, that, the benefits, you produce and make profit here, while, the next time is now being taken away. That's why we want to, in the long term, we are looking at reducing on this, segment of tax expenditure, but address direction at the longer term level. These are areas that we are looking at.
Okay.
So talking of taxes, Bona Ambassador, Kenya got a loan from IMF, and the story that we are told is that one of the conditions is to relook at the tax cuts, the COVID tax cuts that Mwananchi was enjoying. How do you intend to navigate this so that at the end of the day, Wanjiko, Mora, and Chebet do not suffer?
Farmers, we need to understand that, the global nation, Kenya is a member of IMF group, including World Bank. World Bank and IMF, Kenya is a member.
Yep.
And as a member, in a situation of distress, you are allowed to access a facility for, rapid, what you call the credit rapid facility.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, a grant where you do not pay any interest rate. You have over 5 years of grace period and 10 years of maturity. So in accessing this, in a situation of, emergency like the way we are going, we've accessed this facility, and I'm happy to know that, by the last 2 days, this money is already with us, and $750 million, equivalent of about 78 billion Kenyan shillings, for our own budget support. Of course, the destabilization in the economy and also the revenue stream has impacted negatively on the amount of revenue we have been raising, and also support to the social sector, particularly the health. So in view of this, now we have this budget support, and this is also going to stabilize our currency. And it's also going to continue supporting, if we are going to have further imports, at least we have foreign exchange that's going to support all this. In an ideal situation, we're already working with IMF to go to a program. The idea is just they are going to support us to make sure that, our expenditures are not only reasonable, but the policies that we've agreed jointly are implemented without necessarily actually subjecting to any discretion. So those long-term policy engagements, they are good. But, we're in a situation now, a situation that we never anticipated. We must support our economy.
Yeah.
We must support our population, whether it's giving out money, whether it's giving incentives, so that, the vulnerable segment in our society do not suffer. That's why we decided, in addition to the 30 billion Kenya shillings that we administer every year to support the vulnerable segment within our population, we've given additional 10 billion a few weeks ago. And now on a weekly basis, we are transferring 1,000 shillings to those segments, to those vulnerable groups that have been identified. The next time of all this also not only going to support that vulnerable person, but also going to support the various informal economy, the rural economy, and it's going to support our industry. It's in those contexts that we are looking at. Of course, IMF, as a policy organ, international policy organ, will always tell us, we think this needs to be done.
Yeah.
It's up to us to take them on, or it's up to us now to adjust based on our own situation.
Are you taking them on?
The good ones, we are taking them on. And they are not necessarily bad, because they are making us more disciplined. They are making us more, truthful in whatever we are undertaking. And those policies are not made by them. If there are policies that, we've agreed and actually, they germinated in Treasury. But now we just want to ensure that we insulate ourselves and upgrade ourselves to international policy, monetary policy standards. So those are things that we are looking at.
But Bonasias, there's real fear among the population when they read the stories that you're receiving 78 billion shillings from the IMF. And the condition for that is that the people who had just gotten a reprieve of payee, those who had gotten a reprieve of VAT and income tax, that all is going to be reversed because IMF has come and said so. So is this going to happen or not?
No. Let me tell you, there's really nothing like that. Unfortunately, the media and also some segment of leadership are engaged on information which is either half-truth or completely, not completely alive. Because we are facts here, you can cross-check with what we are doing.
Yep.
This is actually, there's absolutely no conditions attached to this.
Okay.
Actually, it's a budget support. Where we direct it is up to us. How we are going to do it is up to us.
Okay.
It's not, it's not conditional loan. It's not conditional grant.
Okay.
It is just money given to us to manage our budget. And where we direct it is up to us. And that's what we are saying. We are looking at, not only the health sector, but we're also looking at, the general population, the vulnerable. We are looking at the SMEs. We are looking at, making sure we facilitate the corporate world, so that they continue remaining afloat. Because we need these industries now, and we also need in the future. If we lose all our industries now, having an opportunity to come back, to start, reopening is going to be a big challenge. Because one, will have lost the market, we'll have lost, the need that we've had. Our people will have lost jobs, there will be no demand, and it's going to be a serious crisis in the economy. That's what we are trying to make sure that we do not lose.
Okay.
We may reduce on production and we may suffer, to some extent, but we remain afloat, even if marginally.
Okay. Now, as concerns remaining afloat, today we see reports, Bwana CS, that the Parliamentary Budget Office has flagged unexplained funds of 8 billion shillings allocated for projects, specifically road projects that have already been finished. Is this the case, and what could be the explanation for this? 10 years down the line after the completion of some of these projects, money is still being allocated for the payment of such?
We need to be educated on government budget process. And it's quite unfortunate the way nation is reporting is quite not only, a truth, but also sensational. Realize that, a project completed today does not mean that, on completion, will have paid all the amount owed, by those companies. It's a process based on the fiscal space that we have. We pay over long, or sometimes even over a long period of time.
Okay.
We were lucky that, we have that space to do more, but also pay with enough, time between us. So what is in the budget is factual. What's in the budget is subject to every scrutiny. But, to report things on the basis of ignorance is quite unfortunate. Whether by budget office or by the media, is not the case.
So what is the case, yes, Bwana CS? What is the case for all avoidance of doubt here? What is it? Are we saying that 10 years down the line, then some of these projects are still being paid for? Is that the real situation?
Maybe we are looking at a time frame, which you have no idea. I am telling you, every project has its own timeline.
Okay.
The completion does not necessarily mean that on completion that you will have paid for every cent that's of the cost of the project. We might have completed the project, we start using the facility, but we are falling behind in terms of payment.
Okay.
And this is actually what is the case. Because quite a number of them, what is factored there could actually be, borrowing that we had done many years ago. And the flow and disbursement of those resources are based on a framework of a budget that goes through the necessary process, not only Treasury, but then, subject to the budget committee and also the National Assembly. And it's on that basis that, National Assembly is going to interrogate us. And I was there yesterday. We had a very fantastic engagement, and we are going to be there also next week. And all these, whatever issues they have, are going to be asked, and they are going to get adequate answer. And then based on that, then we have the final document that will have the final approval. But, just flagging out something, based without any reference, without any reference to the position of Treasury is unfortunate. Unfortunately, for the last few days, the nation has been quite churning out some very sensational position, which is really completely out of reality.
Bwana CS, looking at that particular story of that particular issue of making these payments, if the project had been completed even 10 years ago, and seeing the situation that we are in as a country, is this the right time to do those payments? Is it that urgent, or is it that necessary, considering that we have other pressing issues? We have floods that we need to respond to. Here's the COVID-19 and all the effects that it has had on the economy. Is this a priority area?
Well, let me tell you, is that the mechanics of budget making is quite complicated. We are not taking money from our basket and decide, whom to pay and whom not to pay. It's a complicated situation, There is a resource that we generate, the revenue that we generate locally. That is our own source. We have space and leeway to spend that money. But there are resources that, comes from bilateral partners, either loans or grants. And the manner, and all of them have to be reflected through the budget. We cannot just come and give money to the government and the government send it wherever it wants. It has to have the force of law. It has to be appropriated. And Parliament is the National Assembly is the only organ mandated with the appropriation of budget. So that some of this money you are seeing are donor money. They are factored there to pay a particular project and over whatever period of time. And the money that's being paid trickles in a year.
Okay.
It can even be 10 years after the life of that project.
Okay.
That is actually why the situation we are even paying for some projects that were completed many years ago. Those are basically a development support budget, and that's how it's going to be paid.
Talks between the central bank, the financial institutions, and of course the National Treasury have told, in one way of supporting the population during these COVID times is to look at who has loans with financial institutions. And they got into negotiation where if you have a loan with a financial institution, you can go and have a talk with the financial institution for that loan to be either deferred or whatever mechanism the banks put in place. This translated also into the Kenya government looking at who it owes money and going to talk to that person that we owe and asking them to give us some grace period for payment. Are you in talks with the people that we owe?
I haven't understood that. Are you referring to our bilateral partners or you are referring to the multilateral organization that we borrow from?
Everybody that we owe.
Let me just put in perspective.
Yes.
I think I can handle both. Let me put in perspective. Number one, the Treasury and the Central Bank agreed to give our engagement with the commercial banks.
Yep.
The commercial bank also agreed to engage the individual, entities or the individual person who are borrowed from them so that they can be given time to settle that amount. It can be given a breather. It can be 1 year. It will depend on the individual engagement between the bank and the borrower.
Yep.
Because you cannot say blankly and say, okay, we are going to push it by this time without actually engaging, because when you borrowed, it was a personal decision. It was a personal engagement. The agreement between the two of you is only based on the two of you. But now, because there is general acceptance that based on this, some maybe want for a breather for 2 months, some for 1 year, some for even more. Those are discretion that we left to them. And additionally, what we've done, I remember close to a month ago, I also gazetted that we gave, at holiday, the credit reference bureau.
Yes.
We suspended listing of any default
Yep.
by 1 year. So, and we also stopped because what has been a challenge is that the access to digital borrowing has been a big problem.
Yeah.
And most of them in the past, they have been referred to credit bureau to the extent that, many people, the number of defaulters have increased. Now we suspended that. There will be no more listing on the same. This is one. Number two, on all loan arrangements, because of that proclamation, then individuals and business entities can now engage the banks and make an agreement on whatever kind of space that they require.
Yeah.
But now, based on this internationally, the G20 a few weeks ago made a declaration, or there's a general acceptability that countries are given a debt moratorium for 7 months, up to December.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and particularly the least developed countries, without any attachment, they are given a tax break.
Yeah.
But Kenya does not fall in that group. Kenya is a middle income, low middle income country.
Yeah.
We have access to some, IDA money. We also, but the rest of the thing is that because we have the ability, we borrow commercially.
Yeah.
The danger of now accepting that moratorium, it came with conditions. That meaning we should not either borrow or we should not service. I generally borrow commercially.
Mm-hmm.
And already we are holding some commercial papers, including Eurobond, that we are servicing.
Yeah.
Going that route can be very dangerous for us because there's a fear of the cross default and it's going to impact negatively on us.
Uh-huh.
So at the moment, we are not keen about embracing that or accepting that position. What have we done? We are now engaging the bilateral partners on one-to-one and engage, on if they can give us space on our fiscal, framework. Even if it's for a year or even more. And the engagement is going on very well. I cannot announce that, we've already gotten a break for a number of maybe a year or so for the time being, but our engagements with the diverse bilateral partners are on and very productive. And I'm confident that we are working towards that.
Bonasias, you also spoke about what COVID is presenting as opportunities. For instance, you very well looked at now meetings are happening virtually. So even going forward, it could be a good opportunity for you to tighten the measures that going forward, meetings of an international nature will be reduced. Let's now also look at our other recurrent expenditure. Our high, the amount of money that we pay to staff, the money that we pay to staff. Is it about time that we look at that in terms of bootstrapping and saying that we reduce our wage bill in the public service?
Now, I think we need to put this in context. The challenge of the pandemic has also brought some opportunities, as I said earlier. Our industries are coping, and now they are looking inwardly for sources of inputs and produce for the local consumption. Look at the case of masks. The EPZ that were actually in the past producing textiles for export have now taken advantage and producing masks for our own consumption. Therefore creating demand and therefore sustaining employment, even expanding the extent of now them employing more. Look at, the factory in Kitui. The fact that Kitui is a rural county and production of the masks and all those facilities at that level is going to support the local economy of, Kitui County. And it's going to create demand at all levels. And we have this for NYS. We have a number of these that, are coming up and they're becoming quite robust. And they're coming actually even thinking of expansion plan, not only in this country, even beyond. We've seen a number of countries coming even to look at, our production process. And some of those bilateral partners who are producing more for the region are now using Kenyan products and taking to the neighboring countries. This is good. And this also needs something that needs to be explored. I told you earlier that, the virtual meeting that we have not fully embraced in the past is now giving an opportunity for a drastic cut on foreign expenditure. The travel of somebody now going to a plane, spend so much money, spend a lot of money in the hotel, use per diem, carry away hard currency from here, go to a meeting to, let's say, US for 2 days and come back will actually be unnecessary. Because you can actually effectively participate in the conference facility from the comfort of, your office. This is opportunity. But, the idea of reducing now salaries needs to be looked at in context. You are not only looking at the reduction of salary, but what that salary does to the economy. That salary is going to be spent here in Kenya. It's going to support the agricultural sector. You are going to buy food. You are going to buy textiles. You are going to buy all diverse products. You are going to buy, supporting by buying, products at that level. You are employing those people. You are supporting the farmers. You are supporting the chain. The chain of production, from the farming to the supermarket. Many people will have had access to this along the way and will have been impacted positively along the way. So I think we need to look at in the context that high salaries are not necessarily bad. But, it has to be done in context of the social infrastructure.
So
but between the balance, we want to make sure that, we are not only looking at high salary, but what the salary can do, but what they can and facilitate other expenditures that's going to support the corporate sector.
Talking of salaries, Bwana CS, we have healthcare workers. These are all healthcare workers apart from doctors who have threatened a strike beginning Monday. And here, one of the things they cited was that, nurses, clinical officers alike deserve 20,000 that was proposed for doctors. And SRC had said they had proposed this subject to availability of funds. So one, are these funds available for these healthcare workers for that allowance? And two, how are the talks so far to avert this medical strike? Because the CAS Health, Dr. Mwangangi, yesterday said government is aware and is in talks with the healthcare workers. And obviously, your ministry has to be in the middle of these particular talks.
Let me assure you that, foremost, I want to congratulate the health workers on being the front line of the fight against this disease, for supporting the sick and those who are in need of support care. This is something that needs to be appreciated by all of us, because we don't live in a different planet. This is real. They expose their lives. They do, a patriotic duty. And I will really be, from Treasury, it will be really insensitive of us not to address, this reality. And as a result of this, the normal process had already been facilitated. We are going to support the health sector and going to fund the approved amount by SRC. We are already working actually just on the dynamics on how this is going to be facilitated and at what time. But we are going to facilitate this.
But the contention here is that, these other cadres deserve the same amount as the doctors. So they are basically saying, we don't want your 15,000 or 10,000, we want the 20,000.
We actually need to look at, Rome was not built in a day. They rather accept whatever they have been offered, which is not different. Because, let's say a doctor and, the cleaner or whichever, whatever capacity you work in the hospital, we have different, contribution. A doctor has taken a lot of time. Of course, the salary is already higher. And therefore, your responsibility is much higher. And getting, giving everybody the same amount of money, just because they work, it might not be realistic. But, SRC, as a legal body, mandated with the issue of determining the salary and remuneration of the public service, has pronounced itself on it. For the time being, we are going to implement that. If there's going to be adjustment on the same, I think engagement needs to be encouraged with SRC and the health workers. Let them engage. Our role is just for the issue of and anybody now who thinks of paralleling services at this stage, where every population is looking at them. I don't think that will be really fair.
Okay.
It was that if Treasury has refused to provide money, that is one thing. But now Treasury has accepted to provide that resource. So what is the contention? If the contention of the amount, which is significantly not even much different, you having 15 and you having 20, you rather accept the 15 and negotiate, for the extra.
Later on.
And we are not really necessarily disagreeing, but we are saying let SRC address it.
Okay. Bwana CS, as I think we're wrapping up this in a short bit, but just questions concerning budget as we're looking 2020 and moving forward. Are you going to be able to make the budget for all intents and purposes of where you normally draw from? And with all that's currently happening in the country and in the world, will you be able to meet the numbers? 2.73 trillion.
Well, a few months ago, we presented a budget policy statement that gave a projections of the revenue target, come up with the expenditure. At that time, we are not factored in the current challenge. When we realized this, 30th of April, we submitted a revised estimate for the revised revenue targets and also revised expenditure. And we have taken into consideration the prevailing situation, and we are optimistic based on that. We are going to strike our both revenue, but also manage the reduced expenditure by also going, because we have also postponed some of the development projects to address, the current reality. Yeah.
Ambassador Ukuriatani, Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Planning, thank you very much for speaking to us today.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure engaging you, and we look forward to another round of, if you require any further clarification, we'll be available.
We will be reaching out.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Asante, have a good day.
Thank you.
Candid conversation there, where he says, well, I'm willing to engage, I'm willing to listen to what you're asking. It comes out that these guys at the National Treasury know something that the rest of us don't know.
Yeah.
And it's what they know is quite complex. And I think they need time to educate us, to bring us at least to some level of understanding. If everything will be told, you need to understand budget making. You need to understand the budget making process.
Make it understandable that for the people of Kenya, for whom it affects the most.
He said it's a complex process.
Indeed it is.
It is, I'm sure.
But listening to him and listening to the argument that he puts across, you're like, okay.
You can make it understandable.
I
for
see
people.
what you mean. I think there's a very big opportunity for the National Treasury to actually start engaging a lot more on educating people, especially what the thinking of the National Treasury is. But it's a very good opportunity to have to speak to him, and we appreciate having reached out to him and him agreeing to speak to us. 17 minutes after 9, this is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a look at weather and the conversation continues.
Still overcast conditions in Nairobi this morning, and we look at the chance of rain starting quite early on this morning. We'll see highs of 23 today. In Nyeri at 17 degrees, here the rains have started. 23 degrees the high, and it's going to be a wet weekend. In Nakuru, it's sunny, but that'll change soon. Highs of 25 when the showers set in later. And in Eldoret, it's mostly sunny this morning at 18 degrees. Showers expected for the afternoon there as well, with highs of 24. 21 degrees in Kisumu, and expected highs of 28 with showers in the afternoon and through the weekend. The light rain showers are still coming down in Mombasa, mostly cloudy conditions, and the rain will continue for most of the day with highs of 30. In Malindi, it's partly cloudy. We will see rain, and the showers have started in certain parts of the town, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Kampala is promising to be a wet weekend as well, currently with partly cloudy conditions, and we'll see highs of 26 and lows of 21. Dar es Salaam at 27 degrees is mostly cloudy. Rain is expected in the afternoon, then with highs of 29 and lows of 22. Johannesburg is mostly sunny this morning at 9 degrees. Sunny and clear conditions throughout the day with highs of 19 and lows of 6. We'll wrap things up with Lagos this morning. Thunderstorms being experienced through most parts of the state, and it's going to carry on through the weekend. We'll see highs of 33 and lows of 26.
So what's happening in Bungoma?
I think from what is happening at KTN News, looks like the county assembly majority leader has been ousted. He's been kicked out. Interesting that we still have time for politics and fighting. I wonder how they're keeping physical distance here.
Who's the majority in Bungoma? Is it NASA or is it Jubilee? It would be interesting. So now is the time to remove all majorities.
Take it out.
If you're a majority,
Clearly.
That's what it is.
if you're calling yourself majority leader,
You're not
Look
there
for
anymore.
majority support, otherwise
wewe nje.
unatimuliwa.
Ukiona mwenzako akinyolewa chako kichie maji. We saw that happening in Nairobi. Majority leader, in, out. Now it's all over.
It's all over.
Senate, National Assembly, Bungoma County Assembly. It's going.
When the match strikes, the fire reaches everybody. Apparently. There's another problem for you.
Say it again now.
When the match strikes, the fire reaches everybody.
Yeah, and it looks like it's a developing story. Looks like it's something that's just happened now.
Yep.
Because, well, if it had happened yesterday, we would have seen it on our day 2 reporting on the newspapers. But we're seeing it now. So interesting times. The politics still have found their way.
I don't know why you people are expecting that politicians would have stopped working. Well, everybody else is still working from home, from wherever.
Eric, which work is this they were doing?
The assumption is that work.
This is what politicians
do. Benefit Kenyans.
Yes.
Members of a county assembly would look at their leadership. That's one of the jobs. Would look at then, the Nairobi County Assembly, the issue of the budget, the supplementary budget. Do they agree with the governor? Do they not? That is part of their job. This is politicians doing what they do. What's a politician's job? Politic.
Bickering.
Yes.
So the work that you're asking about, what is being done or not being done, this is the work that you expect. Alignments and realignments, who's saying what, who's doing the other, to put yourself in plumb positions, ripe for the taking, as it were. Now, if you're asking about the work that would benefit Kenya and Kenyans, that's a whole different kettle of fish. And whether that is done or not, like you said, I think
it's a complex process. You touch one thing, it affects the other. All right? If you have a good leader of the majority, will ensure that the assembly is discussing matters that affect the population, and then the majority will also come. It's one leadership. Fish rots from the head. If you have a rotten head, then it's wrong.
I agree with you, except the part where you say that either county assembly or national assembly discusses matters that affect Mwananchi or the population. What matters they discuss there, first of all, affects the people whose interest they are actually serving, not the people whose interest they should be serving. So everything else is right except that part.
It's all for public good. For the just government of men. This is inscribed as you enter parliament, is written there. For the just government of men.
It also is the same thing that's written on if you move a garbage dump, the sign on the wall says no dumping here.
If we are here and we're discussing matters that will benefit you and you, we are part of the public. It'll trickle down. Ukuritane has just told us, trickle down effect is as important as anything else. When you reduce VAT to 2 million people for 4 million people who earn less than 2 million people who earn 24,000 and below, you're just thinking, but what's percentage of the population is that? He's just explained to us. Those people, when they have an extra 4,000 bob, they have an extra 4,000 bob to spend. When they spend that extra 4,000 bob, it means that they're supporting the economy. The trickle-down effect is far bigger than the 2 million people you're looking at.
And how you relate this to your leaders in the county assembly, for example, agitating to get their work done is how?
When you have a leader who is serving the people, right? By first of all serving the interests of the representatives of the people, then the trickle-down effect to the people is going to be realized. Okay. If you have a leader who is a stumbling block to the interests of the representatives of the people, then the people will not benefit.
So what we see when such an individual has been ousted...
I should get a job in this.
Yeah, you seem to be a good propagandist this morning, and that has come up very clearly.
I've been looking at Eric and wondering...
has been lacing your statements can actually be cut with a knife.
Do I believe what I'm saying?
I have been looking at him and wondering, who is this?
Depending on who's paying me. Pay me, my friend, and I will believe exactly what I'm saying.
And you can say anything. You should be a politician. Oh, yes. You can say anything and change your tune and dance a different jig tomorrow.
Of course.
Which is what we continually...
tomorrow we go into the minority and then I'll be blasting the majority.
Eric, so this Bungoma story, in the papers there's another Bungoma story, the 600 jerrycans. And the accusation here, the EACC goes after MCAs in 600 jerrycan scam. The agency had already interrogated 12 of its leaders. each of the 56 ward representatives is said to have pocketed up to 40,000 to
disinfect.
To dissuade.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Okay.
Them from probing monies spent on jerrycans. The agency is investigating claims that 56 elected and nominated MCAs received between 30,000 and 40,000 each on April 18th to dissuade them from probing monies spent on purchase of jerrycans to be used in the fight against COVID-19. So these jerrycans, each was a 20-litre jerrycan, each was bought at 10,000 shillings. So the accusation here is that 11.9 million shillings is said to have been misappropriated by senior county officials. So there seems to be drama in Bungoma.
How much is a cover ordinarily? How much is a 20-litre mtungi? This is not jerrycan, is a 5-litre one, but how much is a 20-litre mtungi?
Brand new, 150 shillings.
I've bought one for 100 shillings.
Was it?
Ask the next.
Was it COVID compliant?
You just need a mutungi to carry water.
Carry water.
Did you have a tap?
That's what you need.
Did you have a tap?
Let's add a tap.
And a
You want
release
to add a tap
mechanism?
now? Look, pata, it cannot be more than 500 bob. Add all those things, pay the guy who put the tap, all of it.
We're talking about a 20-litre one.
Doesn't
Don't
matter.
forget, it's not the one for carrying kerosene.
I get
So
it.
20 litre.
There is no way that one will cost.
Not
what
the
was
juice ones for 5 litres.
Wait. What was the cost that was being applied?
10,000.
10,000.
10,000. That is 100 mtungis.
Including, transportation.
Exactly. So here the majority leader, Florence Fulano, said she was convinced that the allowances was from an NGO. Yeah, they're 30 to 40,000. Yeah. Then there is Martin Wanyonyi, Ndivisi MCA, who confirmed receiving EACC summons, adding that they were ready to refund the money.
Suddenly.
So, wait.
So there's supposed to be an NGO.
MCAs,
that is used.
MCAs received money from?
So they said, okay, let me read that paragraph. One of the MCAs who sought an anonymity because of the sensitivity of the matter said that the money came from an international non-governmental organization to be used for training and sensitizing the public on how to fight COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay.
So the majority leader in the assembly was convinced that the allowances were from that NGO.
Okay.
And nothing to do with the jerrycans.
Okay.
The mutungis.
So it was not a bribe. Basically, that's what she's saying. I don't believe this was a bribe. I think this was an allowance from an international NGO that looked at the leadership of the county and decided, we'd like to facilitate you to go and train your people on how to wash their hands.
Now listen to
using
this.
soap.
Listen to this. The MCAs who refused
laughing.
to take the allowance.
It's real.
Listen, this one
I'm sorry, but this is out of this world nonsense. I can't. I don't know.
Yeah.
The MCAs who refused to take the allowance are members of the health committee who had vowed to investigate the matter.
And the same,
They
the ones
wanted
who are
more.
now suddenly ready to give the money
Why
back.
were they
No,
refusing
no.
to take the allowance?
The MCA, the ones in the health committee.
Conscience.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know why they
I think there are very many issues in this story. There's one, and
Or in Bungoma generally.
when we do the traffic, we just go through that story again and tell us the story. There's the issue of jerrycans at 10,000.
Yes.
There's the issue of now the county assembly investigating
The health committee
the
in
health
the assembly.
committee of the assembly investigating this.
Yes, because you see, this was supposed to be for COVID. So obviously the health committee.
Is the one that looks
But
at.
now the health committee, who is supposed to ideally handle the COVID issues because it's a health issue, refused to take the allowance. But the ones who took it knowing that they are being given because of training and sensitizing the public on COVID-19.
Okay. And here, maybe the assumption would be, once the health committee comes up with a report, it has to be debated and adopted by the House. So if you've got the House, if you buy the House, then...
If the House buys you, you're going to give a good report.
They're going to give a good report. This is it. Let's look at that actually and understand. Maybe that explains what's happening now, the intrigues in the County Assembly of Bungoma. It's 9:30. This is A Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. The phone lines are now open, 0719-012-600. We are discussing everything from what you've heard us discussing with the CS for the National Treasury, Ambassador Ukuri Atani, from what we are discussing now, the intrigues in the County Assembly of Bungoma, from the issue of buying non-carcinogenic. Okay, no, this is the other.
The wheelbarrows.
The wheelbarrows. It's the same county. The non-carcinogenic. Let's not go. It's about the COVID-19 blue in color, COVID compliant jerrycans for washing of hands in public places, which is an important thing. It is not just your ordinary mtungi. It is a mtungi that ensures that when you wash your hands, the virus does not get into the mtungi. So you have... You
can even have angels carrying it
it's
from
a
heaven.
complex issue. And when the newspapers report issues like this without even understanding, I have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very big problem with this. Okay? Let's discuss this. Good morning. Traffic.
All right, it's looking good on Thika Road until you get to Muthaiga and then trying to get out through the Pangani underpass. That's not moving. It's moving very slowly from Survey inbound because of that bottleneck that you see there. So it's an almost bumper-to-bumper situation. Where there was a bumper-to-bumper situation on Mombasa Road, that looks much better now, and you won't have many problems. The CBD, I'm sorry, is hell on earth this morning. From that accident, it has now ripple effects into other places, and it means that it's slowing down movement in and out of the CBD this morning. Everybody's feeling the pinch because of that one accident. Hopefully that will ease out soon enough. So right out of traffic hour now, what the little that there was, it's a Friday morning, you can keep it moving and you won't have many problems.
ACC goes after MCAs in 600
Spice up your life.
Again, Dr. Masi.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Claims, all right? So don't take this as the truth. Claims that 56 elected and nominated MCAs received between 30,000 and 40,000 each on the 18th of April to dissuade them from probing monies spent on purchase of jerrycans to be used in the fight against COVID-19. Mm-hmm. So each MCA receives at least 30,000 shillings out of 56 elected MCAs in the county assembly. And there's an investigation about spending of money to buy jerrycans. So they just
is each one of the 56
receiving at least 30k.
So that they would
30
not probe
and 40k each.
Story.
So everyone pocketed some clean 30 or 40,000 shillings.
How much is that?
So they
Let's do
pocketed
the math.
this money to stay mum. Is that what we are saying?
Our calculator. Let's just say each of them gets 30.
And there are 56 of
there are
them.
56. How much is that in total? Is that if
that is 1,680,000.
1.68 million. All right, 600 jerrycans at 10,000 each. How much is that?
6 million.
That's 6 million.
So 6M. Of course, you've spent some money to buy these jerrycans. So how much? Let's assume that there's theft here. How much theft would you?
So according to
let's even assume that the jerrycan was a 1,000 bob.
So here, 11.9 million.
Still 600k. It's not even a million shillings yet.
11.9 million is the amount of money said to have been misappropriated by senior county officials. That's about 12 million shillings.
So this is cost of doing business by spending 1.68 million to buy the MCAs.
Which is essentially what happened now.
But remember, the MCAs have said, wait.
This money that was given to them, it was not an allowance. It is okay. So the money that was reportedly, allegedly given to the MCAs
was an allowance.
For training on COVID-related issues.
Exactly.
Otherwise read as don't probe money. All right. And now this don't probe money that we're talking about goes towards this 6 million essentially that was spent on these jerrycans. So we're going to train you not to discuss these matters, more or less. That's what we're talking about, right? Now, the problem is with all of this is that it comes out still at the end of the day. Because if you want to take it to the nth, the training that was given, what was it about? What was it for? Supposedly for which you were paid. What was it about? What was
Has there been
any training? Did people sit down socially distancing themselves 1-2 meters?
Or was it a webinar this, webinar that?
Or was it a Zoom training? What was it exactly? And did it take place? And who has recorded minutes of the same? When you start digging, you probably find out that, all right, people were probably not even then.
Okay.
So
the story was on KTN News just now that the majority leader in the assembly has been ousted. All right. Let's cross over there and speak to KTN News reporter William Lusige, who's joining us now on the line. William.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, William Lusige. How are you?
I'm doing well.
What is happening in Bungoma?
In Bungoma, there's a lot of issues. Actually, just the way you have noted a few minutes ago, there was that poster of the majority leader, Florence Wekesa, together with her deputy majority whip, because now the MCAs are complaining that these two were the ones who led them to take that 30 to 40,000
training money.
Yeah.
Just give us the background of this 30 to 40,000. What's this whole story? Money being given to MCAs, money being used to purchase jerrycans, an international NGO is in the mix. Just give us that whole background. What is the story?
So what happened, I think, after just the outbreak of the COVID-19 in the country, every county government was moving on to plan on how maybe to mitigate the issue, and Bungoma County went ahead and borrowed roughly 11.9 million shillings from their Bungoma Referral Hospital so that they can use that money to be able to prepare well in terms of the fight against the COVID-19. And what happened later, details emerged that the county government of Bungoma had purchased just one single empty jerrycan of water, which is for 20 liters, at a cost of 10,000. And they had purchased 600 jerrycans, which went up to a total of roughly 6 million shillings. So this caused a lot of anger and a lot of concerns in the members of the public and also the members of the county assembly. And we had even seen a letter that was written to these county government health officials to present themselves before the health committee at the Bungoma County Assembly. So what happened, I think the Bungoma County government felt it was the right time to move in quickly and try and complicate issues and convince the members of the county assembly that they should not investigate further into these issues. That's why they were called. 56 MCAs issued with 30 to 40,000 shillings per person, and they were told to keep mum. That was on April 18th. But I think those ones who refused to take the money, they are the ones who gave out this information to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which moved in and summoned the 56 MCAs on 13th May, which was on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, 12 MCAs presented themselves before the EACC. The others were to do so yesterday and the remaining ones today.
Okay.
Listen, on a light note, you said very animatedly that these jerrycans were empty with no water at 10,000 shillings. Would it have made any difference if it had water?
At least you could say you've bought water.
It doesn't even make sense because roughly you can buy this jerrycan up to a maximum of 1,000. It's just a normal jerrycan. Then another issue was that the money was not paid directly to the supplier. What happened? 9 county government officials went to one of the banks and withdrew 700,000 each in one day and walked away with the money. Then later they went and purchased these jerrycans at a cost of 10,000 each.
Okay. Now, Luciga, who instituted this motion for ousting? Because I want to understand if it was the members of the health committee who had refused to take this training money, or was it those who took this training money and then later realized that, oh my goodness, there could have been something going wrong here and decided to oust the whip? Who led the motion?
Exactly. Actually, they are who took the money, but later they realized that they had done a mistake when they were summoned by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. So that's why I think they're trying to remove the blame on their side. That's why they went ahead and ordered these two officials to pass the blame to them, that they're the ones who convinced them to take this amount of money, and they never told them what was the purpose of the money, only informed them that it was to cater for their training, which was funded by a non-NGO.
Is this NGO existent, or is just fictitious now that we need to, explain the money?
I think it does not exist. It's just the same to what happened when the county government was put task to explain how it had purchased those jerrycans. It said that it had received 600 jerrycans as a donation. When the county government was pushed to give out the names of those who donated the jerrycans, it was not able to do so. So it's just the same to this NGO. We have been asking them to give us the name of the NGO. The officials in charge of that NGO, up to now, they have not done so.
So it sounds to me that when they were receiving the money, the 30,000 or up to 40,000 each, and they were accepting it, what was their understanding? What were they supposed to do with that money?
They were just told it was money for training, which was to come up soon. So they were not yet even aware which kind of a training it was.
And as a responsible leader, you just hear that this is money for some training that's going to come. You're like, asante sana, I'm waiting for the training. And
imagine.
And that's what they want. They want the public to believe, their electorate to believe.
I think they're just trying to pass the blame to the others.
In their defense, in the assembly, the majority leader and the majority whip, what were they saying? What was their defense?
For them, they did not respond to those allegations. What they said, these were just maybe political differences, and they blamed that some other opponents are trying to make sure that they do not continue to hold their positions, but they were not able to give information if this is true, if the allegations are true or they are not true.
Lusiga, it seems like Bungoma is the real theater of the absurd, because you had 109,000 shillings per wheelbarrow, and these wheelbarrows are supposed to prevent one from getting cancer. Now you have jerrycans. What's happening?
The public health issues, they take public health very seriously.
I think Bungoma is turning out to be a hotbed of corruption, and I think it's a failure both from the leaders and also the members of the public, because even when the wheelbarrow scandal happened, it was only the media that exposed the scandal, and most of them were still saying it is a political rivalry between the two opposing leaders. The same as what is happening now. When you try to question them, they say, no, we have been sent by our opponents. So I think it's something that needs more input, especially from the elected leaders, to provide their oversight responsibility, especially the MCs.
William Lusiga, thank you very much for speaking to us, and thank you for highlighting these issues that are happening at the County Assembly of Bungoma.
You're welcome.
We will follow that story, and we'll be speaking with you to hear what's the latest, especially if the jerrycans, maybe you go and discover, as I suspect you will, that these jerrycans are not your ordinary jerrycan.
They prevent you from getting the coronavirus. And Ndu says they are carried by angels.
Angels from heaven. One angel per jerrycan.
Yes. Thank you, Willie. Have a good day.
Good day, too.
These are not your ordinary jerrycan, I'm telling you. You will hear. There is absolutely no way you can tell me that to fight COVID-19, you fight. If you treat this disease normally, it'll treat you abnormally. So you've got to make sure that even the jerrycan you're buying is not your normal jerrycan.
Okay.
Otherwise, this disease will treat you abnormally.
Oh, okay. Well done. However, would all this hullabaloo have come out if AACC did not go and ask questions in Bungoma?
Of course not.
So
you see, EACC asking questions is when the MCA realizes, wait, there was not training. Wait,
That's when
you
they
mean
understood that there was no training. Actually,
you mean there was no training? But I took the money, but I'm still waiting for the training.
They're waiting. It's a webinar that is being organized.
Yeah. So we thank the EACC for opening the eyes.
We shall return the money
of the MCAs. In fact, we're going to return this money. Kama ni hivyo, mimi siwezi chukua pesa ya hongo. Mimi. No, I'm a very clean person. I do not condone corruption in any form or shape. And I will not participate in such kind of schemes. In fact, I don't need to have such a person as my leader.
They should be out.
Yeah, they have lost my confidence. They ought to be whipped and removed from their positions of leadership. And this is exactly what the responsible leaders of Bungoma County Assembly have done this morning. Mm-hmm. Upon realizing that they had been duped by some two unscrupulous MCAs in their midst, who came and gave them 30,000 shillings, telling them that there is going to be a training, and this was to facilitate them to prepare for the training. Go buy a suit. I don't know, but prepare for the training. That's whose date and venue will be now communicated to you soon. And you realize this whole thing was a charade.
Now
I'm annoyed.
Let me disappoint you. Let me disappoint you some more, Erica, as to where the source of the money is said to have come from.
Let me just do this break and then you disappoint me. Can I just breathe first?
Okay. Take a sip.
I'm really annoyed. What do these people think we are?
Who is we now? The MCAs or the people of Kenya?
We, the 54...
56 MCAs.
56 MCAs of high standing in community. Okay. We've been elected by people. They've entrusted us.
And then they removed the seat from under
someone comes and gives us 30,000 shillings. Okay, come up with more allegations.
Okay, so Mr. George Nakuru, the chairman of the health committee in Bungoma, said there was enough evidence to show that 11.9 million shillings had been taken from Webuye and Bungoma referral hospitals illegally and misappropriated by senior county government officials. Webuye and Bungoma referral hospitals.
Taken how? Money allocated to the hospitals is then misappropriated.
Yep.
And there was enough evidence.
Yes, according to the chairman of the health committee.
Was this man investigating jerrycans or is he investigating the hospital? Can he focus?
No, but the jerrycans...
When you hear people talking like this, these are people who are out to... This is a political game.
By the time he's peeling the fruits, realizing that there's so much more rotten than just the surface of this mango. My friend... He has to
sour grapes.
These things look, I'm telling you, these things come at you. As you're investigating one, that's when you realize, oh my goodness, this is something else that's going on in this very same county.
Sour
grapes.
For
crying out loud.
And remember, the hospitals generate their own monies from people making payments to get services and whatnot. So the hospitals usually have some money that needs to be banked in the county revenue account so that it can then be distributed further, as opposed to before where the money hospitals generate for themselves is used within the hospital, but now it has to go to the central port at the counties. So could be people went to get money there like normal business, but then it went to jerrycans and other things. But anyway, later at the last paragraph of the story, Wangamati later, that is the governor, made an about turn and said the alleged purchase of the 620-litre jerrycans at 10,000 shillings each was a falsehood peddled by his detractors out to undermine his government.
But even you can see that. Even you, Mercy, sitting there, you can see that.
That what?
You know the good thing is Eric doesn't believe what he's saying.
No, it's okay. That's
why it's okay. We'll allow him for today.
This is politics.
The story just came out. Somebody crafted the story. One jerrycan. A live human being red blood thumping William told us just now, one jerrycan sitting with or without water, it's not even an issue. One jerrycan is what was sitting there, right? So all these stories that came up of 600 jerrycans, or is it 10,000 shillings? Somebody sat in their home one day and said, let me actually come up with a plan that's going to ruin somebody's career.
Completely inconceivable. Can you even see that happening? And then you tell me that officers went and withdrew cash and they just spirited the cash away. No way.
So even this withdrawing of cash didn't take place?
It took place and jerrycans were bought.
Where are they? You can't hide 600 jerrycans, my friend, under the table.
Nobody's questioning whether the 600 jerrycans are there. What Willie Lusiga is telling us. You don't believe Willie. They believe the people on the ground.
But Willie's on the ground. Willie's down on the ground. That's exactly where we talk to Willie Lusiga.
Willie is not in the whole ground. Is in a section of the ground. He has seen one jerrycan.
So there are jerrycans somewhere being hidden and not being used. So what's the point?
If you talk to 600 people, they'll have seen 600 jerrycans.
Let's even say that you bought them. Then you hide them under the table. What's the use of a light if it's hidden under the bushel?
It's
useless.
COVID.
It's useless. It's useless. So even that you can be charged for. Using public money on things that will not benefit you in any way, shape, or form. Even that is something that should be an issue. Come on, what are we talking about, Eric? You want 599 jerrycans took a walk. I beg you, Joe.
Now, I'm on the issue of these 54 people who took 30,000, 56.
It's not your fault.
Who took 30,000 shillings or 40,000 shillings. They were duped. But there's a training upcoming.
And that's why they ousted the majority whip.
And you see, it's not the first time that MCAs receive money for training.
Okay.
Go to any county assembly across the country and they'll tell you that we have conducted training for this, training for the other, workshop for this, workshop for the other, benchmarking for this, benchmarking for the other. In fact, this 30,000 shillings was petty cash. It was just going to be maybe a 1 hour training. That's the rate for a 1 hour training, 30K. Mm-hmm. If we have a full day training, it would have been more. Mm-hmm. So this guy was thinking, all right, so we're going to be called for a meeting. It's going to be a training, maybe how to wash our hands using soap and water or something like that, how to use this sanitizer, how to detect the sanitizer that has 60% alcohol and one that has 40%. You need training for such things. So you just receive the money and you wait. So mtatuambia, okay, sawa. Me, I'm ready whenever you are. I've mobilized. 30K is enough for my fuel. 30K is enough for me to buy a suit for the day. If you want me to come with my own soap, this 30K is... You just tell me, I'll take the 30,000 shillings. Later, watu wanatoka Nairobi hapa Integrity Center. Wanakuja wanasema ati this money was... I'm like, what do you mean? But I was given by my majority leader. What was I supposed to do? That's why she's been ousted. Majority leader in the County Assembly of Bungoma, out.
What about those who didn't?
Majority whip.
Your story is very nice. So
the health people.
Let's even add music. It's very nice.
You want to tell me those health people are clean?
They didn't take money.
Why didn't the health committee take the money?
Why did the health committee not take the money?
Were they offered that money? Maybe they were not. Maybe they were not part of the health committee members had gone for their other training. They had come to...
They had already been trained.
Kuti's training here. They had come to the COG. They've already been told how to wash their hands. You don't need to reach out to them.
Again.
And since when they came back, they did not come and transfer their knowledge to us. We leave them alone. Sisi wacha tujifundisha kuosha mikono. This is it.
And put taps on the jerrycans to use when washing hands. And buy soap and brand the soap with your picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
And label the suit with your name. COVID trained MCA.
Exactly. County government of Bungoma.
And it's not. It was fairly legit.
This is just not a story as far as you're concerned. Yeah? No, it's okay.
Now, MCA, the ESCC guys, it's good that they're there so that they can set this record straight.
That it was not the MCA's fault.
That the MCAs had absolutely no fault. MCAs were not aware that the 30,000 shillings was duping them into looking the other way. That, the county assembly as a whole, if you're looking at the 56 elected MCAs, that's a huge number. That the county assembly as a whole should never be looked at in bad light, that they are corrupt. After all, we, the 56, are willing to even return that money. Which is that NGO will take the money back there. Oh, you want it to be called proceeds of crime by ESCC? We will give you that money.
Fund.
Go this, add into what you took the other day from that guy that you, 44 million.
44 million. Add that money there.
Yeah, alafu mwende msaidia watu.
After all, ESCC said...
Nafikiri mimi 30,000 shillings. What is 30,000 shillings?
It's not that one that they
I'm
used
an
to topple
elected
you.
leader.
It's not that they used to topple you, not 30,000 shillings.
No.
You're in fine form this morning, Eric. It would
I'm
be
an
great.
elected leader.
Well done. It would be great if it was that was actually the case. It would be fantastic. And then you say, well, upright, standing leaders, all around the country. It would be fantastic. However, let's take a step back into reality and realize that this is not the case and this is not how it happens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
By the time EACC steps in and starts asking questions about individuals who withdrew large sums of money. And I'm telling you, you hear the way we talk about how COVID has presented many opportunities. COVID has also provided even more opportunities for people to be
for tumbocrats and entrepreneurs.
Thieves.
You know what it exposes, by the way? When we look at a county government sitting and deciding immediately that we need to buy 600 jerrycans for water, if you on paper, it makes a lot of sense. You're talking about marketplaces. You're talking about all the public places. If you're encouraging people to wash their hands with soap and water, provide the water. So the first thing that you do is provide the container that holds the water. And then you'll have the water bowsers putting the water. On paper, very good. The manner in which it is being done, it's where the questions arise. And this is not the only place. I keep saying, all these places we see governors all the time with their small bottles of hand sanitizer being distributed to the village.
Pictures.
You're going to a village that has been using water all along, and then you tell them, I'm giving you a liter of hand sanitizer, or actually 100 ml of hand sanitizer, and I'm not going to come back. What's that? Does it make sense? What kind of reasoning went behind that? It is all a scheme to pilfer from the public coffers.
Of course.
This is what is happening in our counties. We are seeing them going fumigating villages. A tractor with something that is just spraying something that looks
you don't know.
you
what
don't
it
even know
is.
what they're spraying, and then they tell you, you know what, we spent 11 million shillings to fumigate
Sanitizing
on
the town.
yesterday, and then we gave everybody in that market free face masks, and these face masks we procured them from. We ensured that we actually bought from the local institution. This local institution, it's not a problem. You can talk about, give a direct example without any information or I'm not implying anything on the Kitui County government, all right? Take an example of Kitui County government. So this institution, and kudos to Charity Ngilu for seeing the opportunity and rising to that opportunity and saying the Kitui institution shall provide.
Kikotech.
Yeah, the Kikotech shall produce the face mask and the PPEs. Clean. They shall be bought by government. They shall be distributed to all our health workers and the public. Question is the supply of the raw materials for the making of these PPEs. Because Kikotech is buying raw material.
Yeah.
Questions will emerge, not in Kitui, but in other counties where we are talking about, we used our local industries to give us PPEs. We are just making noise.
Just looking
look at
here,
Tanzania.
their money is going. And they say they fought COVID very well.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And you don't think that we are good leaders? We are.
Oust the leader.
Oust
the
one
who's
leader.
The problem.
Yeah. And bring in another one. And the game continues.
As we keep saying, COVID-19 pandemic will bring out the best and the worst in us.
It shows us who we are.
Yep.
Continues showing us who we are.
Our true nature, our raw form.
We as Kenyans roll over. That's who we are. We allow ourselves to be robbed. That's who we are. We make noise a little bit. Yeah, that's who we are. We align ourselves with whichever faction. Now, there are those that, of course, will support the ousted leaders in the assembly. There are those that will support the 56. There are those that will support the health committee. In the end, too many people supporting too many sides, nothing will come out of it. We just hope that Major Twali Mbarak and his team at the EACC
Have the
will
blinders off.
at least have some blood spilling in county assembly. So let's say goodbye for the day. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
Dr. Marcy Korir.
Well, a lot's been happening.
Ongelesha wananchi.
Let me repeat the thing that we've been saying since we started with COVID. The virus does not move. It is we who move. So stay put. You don't need to crisscross borders, pay across borders and whatnot. We've seen the damage that does when people, find their way illegally to where they are not supposed to be. So let's stay home if we can, when we can. The virus does not move. We move.
There you go. We need to keep talking, folks. Plus, protect yourselves. That's another thing. I think we sometimes think that this is gone and it's away from us now. We need to be very careful in our actions moving forward now. It will be interesting to see whether measures will be lifted or not. And I think we need to be very careful to wait until we hear from government what it's going to be. It would not be a good time to start bouncing around because 21 days are over. Yeah. And I would say with all caution, don't wake up tomorrow morning and say, yes, it's over. And start, no, wait.
I'm free. I can go to Shags now.
Not so much.
Free at last.
It's weekend.
Free at last.
Today's proverb: send your child where he wants to go and you will see his pace. Send your child where he wants to go and you will see his pace. Basically, if a child wants to walk around, move around, just let the child move. You'll see their determination will show you how far they're willing to fall and stand, and that will also show you their passion. So passion will always drive our actions. That is it for the Situation Room. Have a great weekend, folks. It's 10 o'clock.